Faramushwana reports.
The city of Johannesburg has allocated 192 million rand for the rehabilitation of Lilian Ngoyi Street. When Eyewitness News spoke to CEO of the Johannesburg Roads Agency, Lilian Ngoyi last night, he couldn't confirm how much had been spent on phase 1, with the last reported amount being 64 million rand. The remaining funds will be used to enhance the street's appearance, including installing sidewalk pavements, street side chairs and other amenities. But DA Gauteng leader Solim Simanga has expressed concerns, suggesting that the total cost of 192 million rand may warrant further scrutiny.
We have now been told that there's over 200 million that has been spent to fix this. Please tell me, what does 200 million look like? We have now been told that there's over 200 million that has been spent to fix this. Please tell me, what does 200 million look like if you're looking at a place like this?
Delays in completing the repairs were due to a dispute with a previous contractor, whose contract was terminated last year. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
On Johannesburg's East Rand, some families of people who died when a gas truck exploded in Boksburg are hoping a 65 million rand lawsuit against the entities they deem responsible will ensure a similar incident never happens again. On Christmas Eve 2022, a truck carrying about 6,000 litres of highly flammable gas was trapped under a low-lying bridge on Hospital Road. It exploded underneath the railway bridge, leaving 41 people dead and many others injured. Some families of the deceased, along with the survivors of the tragedy, have filed a civil lawsuit against the trucking company, the labour broker of the truck driver, and the city of Ekurhuleni over claims of negligence. Thabiso Koba reports.
It's been about 3 years since the Boxburg explosion, and there has been no arrest, prosecutions or even fines for the entities involved in the tragedy. Geraldo Geduld lost both his son and wife in the explosion. Geduld says on some days he's re-traumatized by viral images on social media of his son with his skin severely burnt.
For me, obviously, with my background being an engineer, I like to see, how can I say, structures put in place to prevent something similar happening. It was a bit unnecessary to lose so many lives.
Geduld has since left Boxburg and moved back to the Eastern Cape to be closer with his remaining family. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Activists and their opponents are set to face off in court this week as the Western Cape High Court hears legal arguments for a ruling on whether sex work should be decriminalized. The case lodged by the Sex Workers Education and Advocacy Task Force challenges the criminalization of sex work as unconstitutional in a long-running bid to recognize the sex industry. The NPA issued a moratorium on the prosecution of sex workers while the case is being heard. Carlo Peterson reports.
Sweet spokesperson Megan Lessing says the illicit sex industry could bring in a potential tax revenue of 8 billion rands if decriminalized. Lessing says sex workers often become victims of violence and are exposed to health risks due to the industry being unregulated.
There's research that the government has done in terms of what sex workers experience, the level of violence that they experience, both from community in terms of stigma, often physical violence, the physical and sexual violence experience, and then also the vulnerability, in terms of health.
Lessing says the decriminalization of sex work is already part of government policy, and the Justice Department has opted not to oppose the case. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And Indonesian students and civil society groups have called off protests in Jakarta today after citing fears of heightened security measures following deadly riots across the country. The demonstrations on the weekend over economic hardship turned violent after a police vehicle hit and killed a taxi driver on Thursday night. 8 people have died in the protest that saw a week of escalating anger over lawmakers' pay and the police's response. Yesterday, the president announced a cut to lawmakers' benefits in an attempt to calm the protests and also ordered the military and police to act against rioters as well as looters after homes of political party members and state buildings were destroyed. Gold is trading at $3,480.28 an ounce. The rand is at 17.62 to the dollar, 23.84 to the pound, 20.65 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.20 a barrel.
Traffic remains heavily backed up along the N3 South between Vincent Chabalala Road and Langsfield Road due to an accident. There's also queuing traffic along the Mark 1 South between the Baklu Interchange and Glenhove Road, also due to an earlier accident.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 32 and 33 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the city of Johannesburg will soon launch phase 2 of the Lilian Ngoyi Street rehabilitation project as it reopens today.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 9 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. You're on 702. It's always good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Clement standing in for Bongani Pingwa there. I am subsequently standing in for Madimeja between now and 12 o'clock. Really appreciate your company. We're together till 12, as I said. We've got quite a lot to go through. So let me just give you a rundown already. My name is Thabo Shole Mashao, and we have an open line from now to 10, and I will tell you all about it. Maybe I should just kick off with it because it's quite a serious one. 3,500 children in South Africa, or babies, are being abandoned. This is according to the Social Development Department. And at current state, they are at odds with various NPOs that are looking after the children. Save the Baby entity is one of them, Baby Save organizations. And you'd remember that the Baby Save organizations have interdicted the department, saying that the department should steer clear of its activities. What is at stake? And I want to explain it very slowly so that all of us can perhaps have a sense of sobriety as we engage in these debates. So some organizations have a facility wherein mothers who want to abandon their babies or who cannot look after those little precious bundles of joy can walk towards those organizations, leave the babies in somewhat of a basket, in a container of sorts. And this container is attached to the wall of that particular organization. As soon as the baby is left inside that container, it will trigger an alarm that will automatically inform the people in charge of that NPO or NGO. So as a result, that happens to be something that will then immediately be dealt with. They attend to a child, they take the child to rescue, and they give the child whatever help that they need until a child is adopted. But the social development, as far as we understand, Department of Social Development is saying there's a danger to that. It may encourage other irresponsible mothers to just willy-nilly leave their children there, and opening South Africa to a bigger problem of children who are abandoned, knowing that some irresponsible parents may opt for this abandonment option in order for them to relieve themselves of their responsibilities. That burden will then be carried by you and I financially, because now the babies will be in the care of government. I tried to explain it as clearly as I can. But, the answers are not simple. The answers are truly not simple. As much as there could be unintended consequences for this well-meaning organization that wants to have a baby saved and properly left behind by the mothers who do not want their children. There is something to be said about the burden that is placed on South Africa by mummies or parents, I should say, because it takes more than just a mommy to make a child, by parents who want to abandon their babies. There's something to be said about that. You and I are complaining about paying taxes, the money being spent on other things, and not having sufficient resource as a country to explore other economic opportunities that could revitalize our economy. So, but what do we do? So the long and short of this is that the social development went to court, right? But these organizations have been given some sort of relief by the court to say social development can never mess with them until the matter has been thoroughly heard in January of 2026, next year. Meaning how many months? 4 or 5 months or so to go before this matter will be heard. And it troubles me greatly. Again, I will say my favorite say, I'm sure you'll get tired of it as well, that these topics are not fashionable. They are not your typical Zuma, MK, Floyd, Malema, Ramaphosa kind of topics. They require us to dig deeper, not into our psychological arsenal, but our emotional state of being as well. That's why they're not popular. These topics require us now to almost put ourselves between a rock and a hard place and say, which is the better devil of the two? As parents, as children, as South Africans, as people, as uncles, as nephews, as nieces, as aunts, we are then called upon to have a sober moment for a second to say, if we close these organizations, are we able to deal with the subsequent consequence of mothers or parents abandoning their child in forests, in toilets, drowning their kids? Or is this the better option where they can just leave their little babies in a box at a safe place, and then social development will inevitably come into being, and the value chain thereof will kick off until adoption, where you and I will pay and take care of these children? Or we're saying, no, these organizations are encouraging this behavior. People will go out there and become irresponsible knowing that they won't be held responsible or to account. There's an issue of criminality as well that social development is raising. They're saying, by the way, leave everything aside. It's illegal just to abandon your child. It's illegal. Leave everything aside. You can't just have a child and abandon them, be it in the forest, be it in the toilet, or be it in that box at that entity, at that NGO. What do you do? What do you do? Please enlighten me. If you want to remain anonymous, please also do so. But 3,500 babies are being abandoned in South Africa every year. Is it the issue of the psyche of the parents? Is it the issue of money? Is it an emotional matter? Is it a societal issue? 3,500 kids, little babies, abandoned every single year. I'm sure it's way, way too much. What do we do? As a country, where do you stand on this issue? What is the solution? Give us a call on 011-883-0702, 011-883-0702. Alternatively, you can leave a voice note on 072-702-1702. That's your voice note and your text messages. Also on YouTube, we are live. You can just go to YouTube and check us out immediately and leave your comment there. Most welcome to do so as the show progresses. But I truly want to hear from you on the open line about that issue. Like I said, it's not your normal issue that's going to get us heated up, screaming and shouting in tens of thousands in a row. It's something that really requires us to think thoroughly about this. But it's necessary. Some mothers are desperate. Some mothers are truly, truly desperate. They don't do this because they're on drugs, they're irresponsible, they were drinking and whatever else. Some mothers are desperate. They're in a state of shock and desperation because they could have been abandoned by their lovers. They could have been abandoned by their parents. The child is here now. They don't know what to do. It could be that they are young. It could be that they were raped. It could be that they are not ready physiologically and otherwise. They are not ready to take care of another human being. What do we do? What do we do? That's one matter that would look into on the open line. Of course, another one, when the president and the presidential spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, had a very interesting discussion with Clement Manyathela, who was standing in for Bongani Bingwa on the breakfast show earlier on. And Clement asked critical questions and asked if the president is not meddling on operational issues when is clearly displeased with Commissioner Fanima Semula's decision to take the dockets, the 121 dockets, back to KZN, especially those that have to do with political killings, to say, go and investigate them again. Let's remove them from national. Let's take them where they belong. The president is saying, but there's a commission that is about to unfold, bro. You can't just do that. Maybe those dockets will be needed and you are interfering with the process that has begun. What if evidence leaders or anyone else, any of the stakeholders in this commission will need the process to be as clear as possible? Do that once this process has been completed. And some will say, what happens in the meantime? And the question came that in the meantime, what if evidence is lost or compromised due to the passage of time? And why is the president displeased so much? He should let the commissioner to do his job. Well, that I'd love to hear from you again on the open line, 011-883-0702. Right, and from 10 to 10:30, we will be speaking about that very serious matter. You'd remember that the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, known as NERSA, admitted to this huge error that they made when they approved Eskom's multi-year tariff increase. And this blunder is now costing you and I. We were supposed to pay a certain percentage, but that has skyrocketed because of this mistake. And due to this mistake, an out-of-court settlement with Eskom had to be sought between NERSA and Eskom. Now, from April 2026, tariffs will increase by nearly 9%. You and I, when we're buying electricity, when we're paying for electricity, be it prepaid, postpaid tariffs, they will increase by 9% instead of just 5%. And again in 2027, by close to 9% instead of 6%. And this deal, it has been said that it's secretive, it lacks transparency, and it's unfairly punishing both you and I. So we are paying for their mistakes. Once again, let alone the state capture issues that have been so well ventilated, Eskom's ineptness in the previous, and I know they're doing their best to cover up for that. We were paying for those mistakes, let alone all of that. Now we are paying for a new mistake again. Is that fair? Is that fair? Well, we'll chat to Chris Zealand about that between 10 and 10:30. And we will also look at the state of South African medical system. If you're a doctor, a health practitioner, a number of people have complained when going to the hospital saying that things are not as good as they ought to be. Some doctors are saying we're not getting jobs. Unemployment doctors, the minister has spoken about them in the previous. But generally, what is the state of the South African medical situation as we speak? The system as we speak. We'll talk to Dr. Mzulungile Notikita, who's the CEO of South African Medical Association. That's between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. In your family, when you are sitting with extended relatives, when you are sitting for a wedding, child's birthday, any gathering, lobola, and anything else, how do you treat mental wellness issues? Do you ever talk about it? Does it ever come up as you're gossiping about that uncle who's a drunkard, about that aunt who's always in everyone's business? Does the issue of mental health come to being? And how do you deal with it? Because in many families, it's got such a stigma. People don't talk about that. They're thinking that you're talking about Looney Tunes, someone who's lost their marbles. They've gone cuckoo altogether. And it's a mental health issue. It could be that one of your cousins is depressed and going through some stuff, and they are not necessarily cuckoo as some people would want them to be. It's just that they're caring a lot. Do families understand the sensitivities around mental health issues? We'll chat about that again on our Family Matters feature between 11 and 12. The show has just begun. Abel is here. He's pressing many buttons. He doesn't like me saying that. He wants me to say he's a technical producer. He is going to give us the rundown, and as far as technicality is concerned, he's making sure that I sound very well. There are many screens and buttons in front of him. The other side, the regular team, Zintle, is on the other end, and she is the producer of the show. Sinazo is also the producer of the show. You know Sinazo and Zintle very well. They are here every day. I'm just a guest on the show. And Amu will tell us what's happening on the roads. But the most important ingredient of all of this is, of course, you. We can't do it without you. I mean it every time I say that. You could be anywhere else, but you choose us. We are so lucky and fortunate, and we will continue fighting for your attention. So stay tuned on 702. It has officially begun at 22 after 9.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
702 indeed. Without any further ado, if you don't mind, I'll just go straight to the calls. Then I'll take the voice notes thereafter. And let's see who's been holding the longest. It's definitely Tato from Brakpan. Morning, Tato. I hope you're good.
I'm good, my brother. How are you?
I'm free, man. How's everything?
I'm good. I just want to comment about the thing that you said about kids who are being women who are going to dump their kids because they don't have financial support to raise the kids. I was thinking that women, they need support. We need, as a society, to support them maybe with people that can show them how to raise a child. It's not about you can afford or you can't raise a child. It's because some young women, we don't know how to raise kids. Even if you are matured, even if you have all the money, it's very difficult to raise a person.
Yeah.
So, but we don't have an idea how to do it. So if the social worker can assist most women and teach them, because some, even those who took their children to donate them, you find that in later they will still love their children, but they didn't have enough knowledge how to raise a person, because it's very difficult. Even me as a man, it's very difficult. But if you don't have enough support, you don't know how to do, because also you don't have somebody, maybe especially here in Joburg, we don't have somebody who guides you. You know, it's no longer, life is no longer like the older days where you have your auntie, your relatives supporting you. Now we just live on your own. So if something happens, you are scared, it's your first time experience, you feel like, oh, let me run away. But I feel like women need more support, especially the social worker, to sit with every pregnant person and try to make them understand. I know they love their children. They can't be pregnant for 9 months and just decide to donate their children.
Yeah, Tato, allow me to come in just for a second, if you don't mind, please. Before I say goodbye to you, and you're raising a very important point, and it's not only about financial muscle, it's also about the care that you have, emotional stability to raise a child. It takes more than money to raise a child, and I concede 100% to that. Allow me to play devil's advocate at the fear of being cancelled, right? And this is just me playing devil's advocate. Someone will then say, if you are not ready, if you don't know how to raise a child, why then start a family? Why then bring this life to the world if you don't know, if you don't have any other knowledge? Then wait until you know. That's when you can bring the child. And this is, by the way, not only to mothers, because it takes more than just a mother to bring a child to the world. You and I know that.
Yes. You know, my brother, we find ourselves in this trap. We are young people in this city of Joburg. Life is very fast. We are far from our family. Some of us will come from family where there is no even a structure of a family. The mother and the father is not there. We don't understand what is this all about. We are raised maybe with single mothers or single fathers. It's very difficult. But the support that we can only get is that at least give us the social worker to guide us, to show us the way.
There's a shortage of social workers, Tato, in South Africa. You know, there's a shortage of social workers. They are heavily burdened. But
what I'm saying, Tato, is that most of us, we are coming from a broken home. We don't understand what it is to be a family.
I understand. But thanks for that, Tato. Really appreciate it. Kustas, you are in Midrand. Always great chatting to you. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you, Tabo. At the risk of being cancelled, I like that comment.
Hey, you'll never know
Hey,
these
Tabo, man,
days. People are just
hey,
easily
you never know
offended.
these days.
Yeah.
Tabo, let's talk about the social development. There's no reason for them to be hard-headed in this matter or hardened their hearts in terms of helping these NGOs. These NGOs are doing extremely valuable work. In my earlier part of my life, when I did a lot of work on orphanages.
Yes.
And they need as much help as they can get those orphanages places, because there's many kids who get dropped in there. So I'm suggesting that we have a serious crisis, Jonathan. I do appreciate the numbers, but I think it's bigger than that, Jonathan. And it's growing as opposed to getting less. So the government, we pay taxes so that we can help the vulnerable. And I can tell you, those kids are innocent. Those kids have harmed no one. Those kids, all they want is just to have an opportunity to grow in life. And I think that for mothers to make that decision, it has to be a very difficult decision to get to a point where you abandon the child.
Certainly.
Because there are other avenues to prevent the child from even coming into this earth, but they won't take that option for reasons which they know. So all in all, it's a very painful situation.
Yeah.
The government cannot ignore it any further. And that's just my contribution.
Yeah, this is very important, and I appreciate the fact that you also have experience in this field, Kustas. It's obviously easy just to pass judgment, and you have NGOs on one side, you have the government that also carries a responsibility to make sure that one way or the other there is some sort of responsibility that we all take. What's the role of the family before I say goodbye to you? Because these people come from families. Parents are the biggest teachers in the world. What is our role before we go to the government, Kustas?
Tabo, families are broken. Literally, there are no families.
Amen.
What you see is people at war with each other.
Yeah.
There's so much trauma within the family structure to a point that you can't consider it as a family anymore. So you got to look at this inverted commas family, but it's not really a family.
Sure.
Instead, they are destroying the young new generation. So there is no family structure standing to support these young
ones, eh?
because the family has no resources and the grant is not enough.
Kustas, let's leave it at that and give Sister a chance from Q. Sister, hi. Morning.
Morning, Tabo. How are you?
I'm free. I'm happy to speak to you this morning. I hope you're good.
Likewise. No, I'm very happy. I'm good. Thank you. Tabo, look, I think the Department of Social Development should really look at what they are saying and what they are thinking. I am not condoning women being, babies. But firstly, I'm dumped as a woman with a baby. I'm left with that baby to look after. I have no resources, to do anything. What is the best thing? I mean, I'm not saying this is the best thing, but it's better than me dumping the child in the pit toilet where the child dies, right?
Yeah.
So we have seen that when the government gets involved, things become worse. Look at what happened to Life City Many. They got involved and how many people died. They should be working with these NGOs to say, look, how do we help? How do we make sure that we find homes for these babies? Because there are people who are really looking at adopting babies, and they need to make their adoption, policies a little bit accommodative, so that these NGOs are not stuck with so many babies at once, where a child could find a family. Not come and say, you can't do that. You are encouraging, crime. You're making it easy for women to be dumping babies. No, it's not easy. You asked Kustas a very important question about families. He's so right. Families are broken, trouble. We live in the world where people want instant gratification. People want to be happy. It's so difficult to even make it as a family. And when a young woman comes with a baby that the father has dumped them, then you have to figure out what to do. You know what I mean? So can we work together and not put everything on women when women are having it so hard. And
Sister, I'm sorry to cut you off. I have to run to news, and if you will, we can touch base a little bit later on. But I think we got the gist of what you wanted to say. I mean, you are echoing what the Sowetan raised in their editorial today, in today's edition, where they say, while we accept that abandoning a child is an illegal act, the country requires a comprehensive response to deal with this problem. Shutting down baby savers will not stop desperate women from abandoning their babies. 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. Eyewitness News headlines with Sfiso Zulu. Sfiso, good morning. Welcome. What's the latest?
Thabo, thank you. Good morning. A mother who lost 4 children in the 2022 Boksburg explosion says she hopes the recently filed 65 million rand lawsuit will get the wheels of justice moving. It's been almost 3 years since a truck with highly inflammable gas exploded after getting trapped under a low-lying bridge on Johannesburg's East Rand. 41 people were killed and many more injured on Christmas Eve. 2 years after the tragic Usindiso building fire, which claimed 76 lives, the survivors of the place say they are still waiting for justice. Yesterday marked a two-year anniversary since the devastating blaze gutted the hijacked building in Johannesburg's Marshall Town. Whilst Tembiso Mdlalose is currently on trial for murder, attempted murder and arson, some survivors believe the wheels of justice are turning too slow. And a U.S. judge has temporarily blocked an attempt by the Trump administration to deport dozens of unaccompanied Guatemalan children back to their home country. The district court judge order is in response to reports that the children had been put onto planes and were about to be sent to Guatemala, where lawyers argued they would be at risk of abuse and persecution. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you.
Well, we've got delays on the M1 North between Corlett Drive and Greyston Drive. There's also queuing traffic in the southerly direction of this route between Marlborough Drive and Corlett Drive. While travelling towards Bedford View, delays on the N3 North approaching the Kidwidis turn off. An accident has been reported there. There's another one in the southerly direction right after the Geldenhuys interchange causing delays while travelling on the Mike 1 North. Bumper-to-bumper traffic between Boysons and the Crown interchange. The M2 West is also packed up between Heidelberg Road and the Crown interchange. Please be on the lookout there. Travelling in the city of Tshwane, roadworks on the N1 North approaching Linwood Road, and there's been an accident reported on Solomon Mahlangu Road right near the R21. It is causing some issues there. Please be on the lookout. I'll have more updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
8 out of 10 radio listeners suffer from CAR, or car advertising on repeat. Symptoms include fatigue, anxiety, and confusion. With so many car ads coming at you on your daily commute, buying or selling a car can feel overwhelming. But there is a cure.
Cars.co.za. Whatever car you want to buy or sell, cut through the and just go to Cars.co.za and let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za.
It's time to be part of the change. GovTech 2025 is happening 8 to 10 September at Durban ICC. Experience cutting-edge innovation, inspiring speakers, and powerful collaborations shaping the future of digital government. From policy to AI, cybersecurity, data, cloud, and connectivity. This is the platform for transformation. Don't miss South Africa's flagship digital government conference, where innovation meets impact. Register now at govtech.gov.za and be part of shaping the future.
In a world where everything is instant, some things are worth slowing down for. You took the time to build a life of distinction. Every moment, every milestone, every decision. At Indwe, we take the time to understand your world and craft insurance solutions to protect it. Because true peace of mind is the greatest luxury of all. The right insurance starts with a conversation. It starts with helloindwe.co.za. Indwe Risk Services is an authorized financial services provider.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Backed by popular demand, legendary jazz icon Kenny G will be performing at the Super Bowl at Sun City on Friday, the 3rd of October. Get ready for an unforgettable night of timeless hits and pure musical magic. Get your tickets from webtickets.co.za. Brought to you by Breakout Events and 702.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
24 minutes to 10 o'clock. Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12. Really appreciate your time. And we're on the open line. Anything goes at this time, although we have curated one or two topics. But I generally encourage you to bring up anything on the open line. You know me, I want you to tell us what's happening in your neck of the woods, things that perhaps we don't get to speak about, things that don't necessarily make the headlines. But I kicked it off with the matter that was reflected in the Sowetan today, that 3,500 babies are abandoned every single year. And the Department of Social Development is at odds, at loggerheads with some organizations, some NGOs, which are trying to save babies that have been abandoned. And I asked you a question, what do we do? It looks like we're between a rock and a hard place, wherein NGOs are saying that when mothers are abandoning their children, it's better off that they bring those children into some containers that would be attached to the walls, and those containers immediately trigger a response from the NPOs. The NPOs then get the babies in good time. Within minutes, they respond, grab the babies and take the babies to safety, as opposed to mothers who don't want their children, abandoning them, throwing them away in bathrooms and so on and so on. But also, the department is arguing that abandoning your child anyway is illegal, let alone where you do it. It's just illegal to do so. Are we not encouraging illegality when we say the children must be abandoned in this way? I mean, it's the law versus humanity, I would say. But, I mean, the answers are not simple. A number of you have been raising these issues. So let's go straight to some of what you have been saying on 011-883-0702. And your messages have been coming through to 072-702-1702. This one says, it's simple. Parents, educate your boys and girls to stop having teenage babies. Every Christmas and New Year, the ministers go to the hospital and celebrate these births. Education, education. That minister who said, open your books and close your legs, but she was slammed by other ministers. Remember that one? And that's a message coming from our listeners. And this one says, good morning. There's a conversation between me and the Orange Farm substation commander Manamela, and it's a very long one. We will just go to it in a short while. Another text message that came through says, Mister, I don't know mutual take seat and relax. I don't usually take National Police Commissioner must do their job without fear or favor. Politicians must know their place. And I think that's the gist of what that text is all about. Speaking of that, John is calling us from Johannesburg and has been very patient to come through. John, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702.
Hi, Thabo. Nice chatting to you.
Lovely chatting to you.
Thank you for taking my call.
No, thanks for your patience.
Thabo, I, as a citizen of this country, I'm very concerned. Over the years, these problems of corruption has been surfacing. And really, we have a president who we all voted for. And if you look at generally in the past couple of months, whatever happened in this country, he's never come once out into national television and took accountability. But when there's an investigation, then he's always trying to stop the investigation. That is wrong. Where's the people of this country? South Africans, wake up. Let's stand together. It's our country. Let's not lose our country.
Sure.
These guys are benefiting.
Johnny,
You know?
how do you respond? I mean, the presidential spokesperson, Mr. Vincent Magwenya, was on with Clement in the morning, and he says that it's not necessarily meddling. These are extraordinary times where the president is asking for the police commissioner to respect the commission that has been set up, and it will lose its efficiency if it's not respected. And that's what he was saying. How would you respond to that?
Oh, look, Vincent Magwenya, I respect him. But first of all, I also want to add to this. Whenever there's a problem in our country, Mr. President, my president, doesn't come on national radio or television. He's always sending Vincent Magwenya. What does he know about our country? What does he know about the history of our country? He can have his comments, but the Commissioner Fani Masimola is doing the right thing. He wants to continue and resolve the problem.
Yeah.
Why is the president interfering? Stay aside. You've appointed these parties. You have appointed these commissions. Look at what happened at the Zondo Commission. He's done nothing. Guys, South Africa, wake up before we lose. We'll have nothing left.
Sure, Johnny. I'll be in trouble if I don't come to say one or two things. Well, he's a presidential spokesperson. That's why he is speaking. He's not speaking on his behalf, That's his job. But secondly, what does he know about the country? He knows quite a lot. I mean, he's a South African and he's placed there with reason and merit, I'd like to believe. And so we can't just dismiss him like that. So, but having said that, your views are absorbed nonetheless. Johnny from Johannesburg, 19 minutes to 10 o'clock. Let's see what you've been saying on some voice notes that came through on 072 702 1702.
Good morning, Jabuchilwane in Mkondo, but I don't get the reasoning of social development saying some irresponsible mothers will go there and leave the children willy-nilly. And I was thinking such organizations are made to rescue children from some irresponsible mothers. If an irresponsible mother takes a child there, I see nothing wrong with that because they are irresponsible in the first place, meaning they won't be able to take care of the children. So I don't really understand the point of social development. Thank you so much.
Tabo, good morning to you. You're going to get me ranting. Abandoned babies. Please understand and remember that the problem doesn't start with a mother abandoning the baby. The problem starts with the father having abandoned the mother and the baby.
Yeah.
I hope you have a good day. Tom Midrand.
Tabo, good morning. Speaking to Jakes here. It's very amazing for me that, as we can say, the problem of these abandoned children requires really a multifaceted approach, whereby criticizing one method of intervention really discredit the whole process. I do believe what the Department of Social Development is saying is that don't do that because it's not what we are approving, but they don't provide as to what needs to be done. So this could be one of many, ways of bringing or arresting the situation. So I don't understand, how do they critique and follow in the way they are doing this method? Because this is one of many. Hence the problem is so broad. It really needs, different ways of approaching it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much. I forgot your name. Please forgive me, but you sent a voice note from Midrand, and your point was very passionate and completely understandable. Sure, that's where it also may begin as part of the genesis to the problem. When a father abandons a mother, it could also be that it starts prior to that, where two individuals who are not ready about anything, they did not even plan to have a child, end up doing things that they shouldn't be doing to start off with. And I fully understand where you come from. You see, my biggest issue here is that the child becomes a victim of all these decisions that have been taken by two individuals, adults or not, by these two individuals. And that problem is then transferred to the government and inevitably to you and I as taxpayers, as citizens of the country, because we do more than just pay tax, because we must also socially absorb these young ones into the society. But what is the right thing to do? Some will say socialization, right? And you've been saying that. A lot of people are saying education, education, education. And the biggest school, as I've said, is family. Family does not necessarily mean mother, father, two children, a dog, picket fence, and a friendly neighbor. That's not a family. It could be a gran and a daughter. That is family as well. It could be a cousin, two cousins living together. That is a definition of a family. What I'm picking up is that we are all running away from taking responsibility ourselves. All of us, we're blaming the government, we're blaming the NGOs. We are not absorbing the responsibility and saying, it's us. It's us. We do not have sufficient time to speak to our children. I'm guilty of that, not having sufficient time to spend time with my kids and have a chat with them. It could be that we are not really involving ourselves as we ought to in community issues that face us as parents. So I'm missing the us factor in all of this. Yes, we should point the finger to the government and everyone else, but I don't see any finger pointing at us. I could be wrong. But let us know on 011-883-0702. On YouTube, I did say that you can also send your comments. I'll read those comments out. And as you're participating, including on TikTok, where I am live right now. And Gino De Piers on YouTube says, greetings, TSM. For me, the better devil would be on the box and hoping the baby is safe than other options. Another comment came from Natasha Naidu, and Natasha said, we need more parenting support in this world. We grew up in a different society altogether. What do we do? Is there something to be said about the curriculum in schools where children are held captive for a certain number of hours whilst they have their children's attention? Is there part of the curriculum that speaks to children about having children and the hazards thereof, sobering ourselves to that? Let me tell you my humble view, and I know you'll criticize me heavily for that, and I'm used to it and I'm okay. Please keep those criticisms coming through. I'm happy to take them. Is that, we want to liberalize everything so much. We shouldn't even have rules. We shouldn't have regulations. People must do as they please because your truth is also truth. That's the world that we're living in. We can't say, no, this is wrong, because we will be speaking about people's freedoms and liberties, this, that, and the other. We can't say this is wrong, and yet we want to have a good society. You can't. There must be someone. There must be a referee in a field of play. You can't have two teams doing as they please and you're expecting a fair match. It doesn't work like that. We must decide. We must truly decide. We want wonke bonke to do as they please, or we want some rules, especially at home. A day or two ago, I had to put my little son in line, and he was just out of line completely, speaking to me as if I'm his buddy. And I had to remind him that, hey, whoa, bruh, even though I can call you bruh and we can chill, fist bump and do this, I'm still the dad. I'm still the authority. If I said this, just do it the way I said it. I don't need back-chatting. I don't need you arguing with me with an attitude. It's something that I hate doing because I love PR parenting, being a cool dad, playing basketball with them and joking and calling each other bruh. I love that so much. But a time comes where you have to be unpopular and say, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I feel so bad. And I'd rather do the basketball stuff than the proper discipline. But someone has got to do it. Someone must do it. 10 minutes to 10 o'clock, 072 702 1702.
Good morning, team men and so no two listeners. Regarding the issue of babies, I think the social department must keep to what it is doing. It's mandated to do. I think it must not get involved in these NGOs. They are fulfilling a serious gap, and every life is precious. Therefore, whether they do it or not, it's not going to encourage. I don't think it's going to encourage people to throw away their babies. I think there are compelling reasons why people would do that and opt to dispose the baby safely rather than put it in a dustbin or in a forest for it to die. These guys now, they've had their chance. They are leaving. That's why they can make this. If somebody throw them away when they were young, then they wouldn't be talking now and making these funny decisions that they are making. In terms of taking care of the babies, as taxpayers, we take care of babies, we take care of elderly, people that cannot work for themselves, etc., etc. So if they can sort out the corruption, there will be enough money to go around. And also, now that we are taxpayers, when we get old, we won't be able to work. Somebody else will take care for us. So it is a cycle. Thank you.
Good morning. I have to speak up in defense of baby savers, and maybe it might be a good idea for you to get somebody like David Allen of the Door of Hope on the line. People must think of the bigger picture. Children deserve a chance in life, and they are being given a chance in life. And the government is pretty tardy about when the money actually arrives. And if it weren't for donations and foreign countries that are very invested in places like Door of Hope, they just wouldn't survive. So I honestly, this is just not a simple debate.
I couldn't agree
that's
more.
about all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's not a simple debate of right and wrong. It's very nuanced, it's complex, and it needs some sober heads around us. There are a couple of voice notes and text messages that came through. This one says, it's very interesting that callers are males in this topic. No female voices. We've just had a female voice, and Sister in Q also called. But I get your point. You're saying the majority of voices. Well, ladies, what say you? Here's a challenge that comes from Nati. Nati is challenging us. So please share your thoughts, ladies. Nati is saying, where are you? The guys are talking. Please have your say. I'd love to hear from you. There was one about teachers. Abel, I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, here it is. It says, Morning, Tabo. I'm a teacher and I blame the government. Teachers cannot say anything to children. You can lose your job. So schooling is just to teach and go. It's sad. And it should be more than that. Schooling should be a formation institution where you learn more than just the curriculum, where there is something about society that is being imbued upon you, where a holistic citizen is being prepared to be unleashed into the world post the schooling term. I would love to hear more from you, ma'am or sir, whether you're a teacher there sending this message. Let's go to another text message. This morning, we're arguing in court to decriminalize sex work. I can understand decriminalization, but next it's legalization. I don't want to live and work. I think I'm just editing as I read through. I don't want to live and work where prostitution is a career option in South Africa. That's another text message. Tabo, request from me, any and all male callers, ask them first, do you intend having a child? If you do, whose child is it? Please say more. I'd love to understand your question and its depth. Please say more. And if someone understands it, please feel free to call through on 011-883-0702. Please share your thoughts on that one. 011-883. Bonnie, I saw your text message as well about medical professions. We will do so. Doctors and medical professions dating their patients. Oh, goodness me. Bonnie, we'll definitely get into that one. I would love to touch on that. as well a little bit later on. 011-883-0702. Do we have time for another voice note, Abel, that came through on 0727021702? And by the way, as I said, you are also on YouTube. If you want, we are on YouTube if you'd like to participate and send your thoughts, your messages. On TikTok as well, we're live. I'm happy to hear what you have to say on all these platforms. On X, it's at Radio 702, and my handle is at I am free TSM. Feel free to throw those around. Alexandra Abrams calling us from Cape Town. Alex, hi.
Yes, good morning. Now, just listening to your talk there now, you're calling for the female voices to chat to you on baby savers.
Yes.
But just to say, I'm a DA member of Parliament serving on the portfolio of social development, and this issue of baby savers has come up so often. But just a quick one to say that, as our organization, we've always been in support of the NGOs that does this sterling work in, protecting and saving babies' lives. And as I was telling your producer, this is a legislative matter in that, we need to legalize the safe relinquishment of babies via the baby savers. And, we are currently in the process of doing that. The legislative process is a very long process. And just to say that, the public just needs to watch the space for hopefully later the year when we do bring some, legislative amendments to the sector that will hopefully save some babies' lives, but also prevent, this bullying tactic that places like the Gauteng DSD is doing in intimidating these NGOs to close down and so forth. So that's just a quick comment on it.
It's quick, but it's pointed. I really appreciate it, Ms. Alexandra Abrams. I wish there was more time. I wanted to engage you more, especially about deliberations within the committee, where your thoughts are. But I'm hoping that we can schedule it very soon to ventilate on those issues. Really appreciate your time. 3 minutes to 10 o'clock. You're on 702.
702 delivers
on the matters that matter to you.
This is Leanne from Pretoria. 702 is my companion on my drive to work and home from work every day. They keep me up to date with loads of important information on the news of the world, but also lots of other interesting facts. And I always arrive at work and saying, guess what I heard on the radio today? So I think my staff know me as, guess what I heard on the radio today, whenever I arrive at work, thanks to 702.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
So we can deliver more on what matters to you.
702 listens.
Let's walk the talk.
The world of business is changing fast. Are you ready to lead the change? Vert's Business School offers specialist and generalist postgraduate programs that empower professionals to thrive in today's dynamic economy. From digital business to energy leadership and entrepreneurship, your future is one decision away. Join Africa's top minds shaping tomorrow's today. Visit wbs.ac.za for more. That's wbs.ac.za.
One festival, endless flavor, and 2 unforgettable days of timeless music. The DSTV Delicious International Food and Music Festival, powered by Lotto Star, returns on 20 and 21 September at Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit. On Saturday, the stage erupts with Don Toliver, Questa, and Nkabi Zezwe. Then on Sunday, experience the legendary Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, Lyra, and more. The DSTV Delicious Festival, powered by Lotto Star. Tickets at Ticketmaster.
When I say insurance, you say pineapple. Insurance.
Pineapple.
Insurance.
Pineapple.
Insurance.
Pineapple.
Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
PG Glass Repair, PG Glass Replace.
Hi, I'm Komodo, PG Glass Technician. At PG Glass, we keep your windscreen chip-free and crystal clear.
Choose PG Glass, quality you can trust. Visit pg.co.za.
And it's going to hit 10 o'clock on the dot any second from now, where Sfiso Zulu will be ready to give us latest eyewitness news. Good morning, Sfiso.
This is EWN.
Thanks, Thabo. Good morning. While the city of Johannesburg claims to have completed phase 1 of repairs to the once damaged Lilian Ngoyi Street in the CBD, the route will not be opened to traffic today. This is despite previous promises by city officials that motorists would finally use the once bustling road. The street was destroyed by an underground gas explosion in July 2023, which killed one person and injured many others. Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero is on Lilian Ngoyi today to announce the completion of repairs. We cross now live to Alpha Ramushwana in the Johannesburg CBD. Alpha, how are things looking there?
Well, just for some context, before part of Lilian Ngoyi Street was damaged by an underground gas explosion, the road was surfaced with tar. And this morning, the rebuilt section has now been laid with paving bricks, marking a shift from the traditional tar surfacing. While CISO Johannesburg Road Agency CEO Lilian shares why the city opted for this approach.
The city is moving towards a smart direction, so we don't need to have warm bodies monitoring these things 24 hours. Secondly, as part of transportation master plan, that is why you find yourself standing on a pavement. Some will argue why pavement. We are beautifying the city all the way to the transit mall. As part of phase 2, you will see that the road will look different, and we want to reduce these lanes. We don't want our people to rely on heavy.
Well, CISO, to the surprise of motorists and residents, the street is still cordoned off this morning with safety nets surrounding the area affected by the blast. Dust and sand still covers sections of the newly reconstructed road as the cleanup work by the city's construction teams remains outstanding. While CISO, the mayor, is addressing the crews that are gathered here, and he says by the 12th of September, motorists will begin to use Lilian Ngoyi Street once again. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, reporting live from Johannesburg CBD.
On Johannesburg's East Rand, a mother who lost 4 children in the 2022 Boxburg explosion says she hopes the recently filed 65 million rand lawsuit will get the wheels of justice moving. It's been almost 3 years since a truck with highly inflammable gas exploded after getting trapped under a low-lying bridge on the East Rand. 41 people were killed and many others were injured on Christmas Eve. Some families of the deceased, along with the survivors of the tragedy, have filed a civil lawsuit against the trucking company, the labour broker of the truck driver, and the city of Ekurhuleni over claims of negligence. Tabiso Goba reports.
Rosetta Brits, who was sitting in her home when the explosion happened, says she first thought it was an earthquake. However, the thick plumes of black smoke rising into the sky confirmed it was something far worse. Panicked that her children were outside playing, Brits left her house barefoot and headed to the scene of the explosion. Once there, Brits found the burnt remains of her 4 children.
You know, it will never bring my kids back to me. But the company, that guy, he doesn't need to be working. He needs to be punished like he punished people's family members.
The unemployed woman who shares a home with her 14-year-old child says the teen cannot start high school since she doesn't have money for scholar transport. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
DA Finance spokesperson Mark Burke says financial crimes in the private sector cannot go unchecked as the party against calls for clean governance across the board. The DA, which is the second largest party in the government of national unity, wants some of its reforms to be adopted in a bid to create jobs and grow the economy. South Africa is still plagued by a staggering jobless rate of more than 33%, while the country's economy continues to undershoot. Burke says a failure to address crime and corruption will only make matters worse, describing the disbanding of the crime-fighting Scorpions as a blunder.
If we're serious about growing the economy, creating jobs, I think we need to get it right that we go after, especially white-collar crime seems pernicious to me, and I'm not excluding the private sector from that. In fact, one of the reasons I came into public service is because I was so hurtful of us in South Africa pretending that the private sector isn't complicit in a lot of the crime happening, the corruption happening. And we need to put some head on pikes and make examples.
And a U.S. judge has temporarily blocked an attempt by the Trump administration to deport dozens of unaccompanied Guatemalan children back to their home country. District Court Judge Spakul Sukanan's order is in response to reports that children had been put onto planes and were about to be sent to Guatemala, where lawyers argued they would be at risk of abuse and persecution. The children arrived in the U.S. alone and are in government custody while their immigration claims are assessed. Guatemala's President Bernardo Arevalo and lawyers for the U.S. Justice Department say the children were not being deported, but rather repatriated so they could be reunited with their families. Gold is trading at $3,480.28 an ounce. The rand is at 17.62 to the dollar, 23.84 to the pound, 20.65 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.20 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident on the N3 North before the Kirulis interchange is causing delays. There's also queuing traffic on the Markwan North between the Crown interchange and the double-decker section. Please be on the lookout there.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 32 and 33 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. While the city of Johannesburg claims to have completed phase 1 of repairs to the once damaged Lilian Ngoyi Street in the CBD, the road will not be open to traffic today.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7.
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock, you are on 702. Great to have you with us. Clement is not here. You might have heard him earlier on. He was standing in for Bongani Pingwa. Subsequently, I am in for him. We're together till 12. And your messages, please keep sending them through. I'm enjoying what I am reading, and the conversation does not end in the previous hour. We can take it through on various platforms that we occupy on YouTube, where I am live, and TikTok, but also on social media outlets such as X, Facebook. Feel free to keep those conversations going. Between 9 and 10, it was an open line, and we touched on one of the critical issues that have come from today's publication of the Sowetan, where they raised an important issue of social development that says that NGOs encourage abandonment amid 3,500 babies being dumped annually in South Africa. And the story is just about so many babies being dumped. And there are some NGOs, baby savers, who are saying that, listen, we don't want mothers who are disgruntled to abandon their children in the forests or elsewhere. We'd rather they bring them through and we help them out, and we take those babies in. They put them in some boxes that are attached to our walls. Those boxes will trigger us to act appropriately, and will take the babies to safety. Social development is saying, yeah, especially in Gauteng, they're saying, listen, we understand that, but that's still illegal. We can never have that. If you abandon your baby, that's illegal. Let's have a country that follows some laws, right? And you have also sent some of your comments that I did not touch on in the previous hour. And let me just take a second or two.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
Let me take a second or two to just touch on those that I missed, especially from YouTube. Coming from Sister Hlongwane, it says educating both boys and girls is equally very important. However, we live in a country where children are raising babies. Most parents are at work, which leaves kids vulnerable. We are not a community. Tumi Sereme says, should we as men be responsible? Moms will not abandon kids as well. And those are some of the comments that came on YouTube. But in this hour, just to give you a quick brief, we will touch later on from 10:30. We'll look at the state of the medical system in South Africa. But in the next few minutes, Chris Yeland is going to be my guest. We'll touch on how that huge NERSA era is going to really create a huge hole in our pockets as consumers of electricity. One more message quickly before I go to Chris. It comes from Van. It says, no women must take responsibility of their own bodies. Stop. I can't see the other end of this. Around and making babies. Stop sleeping around and making babies everywhere. And this came from Van in YouTube. I think we've established that it's more complicated than that. The issues are not as simple as that people are just making babies and abandoning them. Whilst that may be the case in some instances, it's not generally the case. People are faced with socioeconomic issues, and people are faced with difficult choices to make in front of them. And the issues are more complicated than that. Or you could put me into my place by just sending a voice note to 072702 1702.
702. Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
As electricity consumers in South Africa, we must brace ourselves for yet another blow in our pockets because NERSA, the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, has admitted to making a serious error when approving Eskom's multi-year tariff increases. The blunder has now resulted in an out-of-court settlement with Eskom that will see electricity tariffs rising even higher than what was announced earlier this year. You'd remember that they had said that from April 2026, tariffs will increase by nearly 9%. Now, that's instead of the previous 5%. And again, in 2027, by close to 9% instead of 6%. The deal has been criticized by various individuals and groupings as secretive, lacking transparency, and unfairly punishing already struggling households. Chris Yeland is energy expert. He needs no introduction at all. He's joining us right away to give us some insights and his knowledge on the matter. You are also encouraged to participate because this affects both you and I. You can just call us on 011-883-0702. Chris Yeland, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Chris, you'll forgive me for being elementary, but I always want us to take a few steps back, not assume that people understand the intricacies of this problem. So if you don't mind going back to grade 1 for me and explaining this mistake as to what really happened and how did it even come about? You would expect NERSA to have researchers, people who are crunching numbers, you'd have legal entities that would be working with it. What really happened?
Yeah, look, a little bit of background, firstly, and that is what is called the multi-year price determination. Now, every few years, Eskom submits an application to NERSA for price increases for the next few years. So the last application that Eskom submitted was in 2024, and it covers the year's financial year, Eskom financial year ending 31st of March 2026, 27, and 28. So it's a 3-year so-called multi-year price determination. And the first year came into effect on the 1st of April this year. And so this 3-year multi-determination extends for 3 years thereafter. So NERSA considers this application by Eskom, looks at it very carefully and disallows certain costs and says those costs are not going to be allowed to be passed through to the customer in the tariff because in NERSA's view, they are imprudently, inefficiently, and wrongly incurred. So NERSA's job is to scrutinize Eskom's application very carefully and make its own determination as an independent regulator. And this is what NERSA did. And it announced price increases for the 3 years. the first of which came into effect on the 1st of April this year and was about a 12.5% increase. Next year, there's going to be about a 5 or 6% increase, and the next year, a similar 6 or 7% increase.
Yes.
So those three announcements were made, and those are what we were expecting to be the price increases for the current year and the next 2 years.
Yes.
But then Eskom took the matter to court and said, you've got your sums wrong. And they put forward an application to the court to have this matter reviewed in court. And that's where the current issue stands at the moment.
And that particular court settlement, we didn't know much about it, but it appears that as part of the settlement, we will be paying more for NERSA to make up for its mistake. Is that correct so far?
Yeah, so in fact, it didn't go before the court. Eskom submitted its review application to the court to take this matter on review. And at that point, NERSA and Eskom engaged on the merits of the document that Eskom prepared for the court, and they reached a out-of-court settlement even before this matter went for the judge. And that's where things are. A settlement is that NERSA has acknowledged a mistake amounting to 54 billion rand, which it did not allow to be passed through to the tariff, and which it now says needs to be passed through to the tariff. Eskom has adequately demonstrated that NERSA made a mistake in its calculations, and that this 54 billion rand now needs to be recovered through the tariff, and this will involve a price increase over and above the price increases that NERSA allowed in its MYPD6, that is the 3-year multi-year price determination. So these are additional increases over and above the increase that has already been announced. These arise from NERSA's mistake, which it acknowledges. You asked the question, how can this happen? And I agree with you. How can this happen? This is not a trivial mistake. This is a 54 billion rand mistake. And NERSA has, specialists and people that, as you say, crunch the numbers. It then goes to a committee called the Electricity Subcommittee, which includes the electricity regulator, a member on the board, and a number of other executives at NERSA. And they consider, the calculations carefully, and they approve them, and they then recommend, the price increases to the board of NERSA, which comprises another set of board members and executives, who then look at it again and finally approve, the determination that has been made by NERSA. How this got through, we just don't know, but it does demonstrate. And by the way, this is not the first mistake. There have been a number of mistakes that have been challenged in court, and courts have decided that NERSA applied its own methodology incorrectly, and they've had to correct this. So in addition to this 57 billion rand mistake, 54 billion mistake, there are other determinations that bring this total amount that needs to be recovered from the customer to 92 billion.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, 96 billion rand. So actually now the amount that has to be recovered from the customer that has been under-recovered in the tariff is a total of 96 billion rand. This is a staggering amount, and is going to result in substantial price increases over the next few years.
That have to be absorbed by both you and I. Chris, are we to deduce some sort of structural or systemic incompetence or negligence at worst from NERSA, given that, as you've said, this is not their first mistake?
Yeah, look, I don't want to unduly point fingers at individuals or the organization, etc. We need a regulator. We need a strong regulator. We need a regulator that can stand up to Eskom's applications and scrutinize them properly and look after the customer. So what I'm saying is this: I do think that NERSA made a significant error. I mean, you can call it incompetence or lack of professionalism, a little slip up. Well, it's not so little, but it's certainly a slip up, at least. Those are the facts of the matter. But the thing that really concerns me, because this is going to result in significant price increases to the customer, I asked the question, what has NERSA been doing to ensure that a whole lot of billions and billions of rands of maladministration, corruption, fraud, procurement irregularities, and other inefficiently and non-prudently incurred expenses that have been passed through to the customer already in the past 10 years.
Yes.
What is NERSA doing to claw back this money on behalf of the customer? At the moment, it seems to be going out of its way to ensure that Eskom can claw back what is duly owed to it. But it should also be looking after the customer and clawing back billions of rands on behalf of the customer, which would result in price decreases and not increases.
I've asked some of our listeners to participate, and it's only fair, Chris, that I allow them to do so on 0727021702. But first, let me kick off with a very sound question coming from Darren. As I read it, I need you to just listen in, Chris, because this is pointed to you. And Darren is asking, how is Eskom incentivized to manage costs if this system allows Eskom to simply pass on costs to the customers? That's one. The second part of the question says, which costs can be passed on? The third part says, is it an artifact of the monopolistic structure of electricity production in South Africa? Is this system common across the world? Chris?
So the reality is, it's quite correct that we do have a monopoly situation currently. To all an extents and purposes, customers do not really have choice, significant choice as to where they buy electricity. They have to buy it either from Eskom or from a municipal distribution who buys from Eskom. So electricity supply is largely a monopoly business. It is changing in the future. The question is asked about what kind of, what is the role of NERSA and what costs get allowed to be passed through in the tariff and what don't. Well, the law is very specific about this. The law says, this is the Electricity Regulation Act, says that only efficiently and prudently incurred costs can be passed through to the tariff. Eskom is entitled to recover its prudently and efficiently incurred costs through the tariff. It is not permitted to recover inefficiently or imprudently incurred costs, such as corruption, such as mistakes that Eskom make, such as maladministration, procurement irregularities, procurements at prices that are inflated. Those are things that the job of NERSA is to look at Eskom's application line by line in detail, look at every cost within Eskom's structure, and to decide which of those it is going to allow through to the customer and which it is not. Now, look, this is not an easy matter, and it requires experience and judgment, careful judgment as to what is imprudent and what is inefficient and what can be passed through and what cannot be passed through. So the regulator's job is to do just that. Its job is not to pass through costs that are imprudent, and its job is not to allow real costs to be blocked. And that is what happened in the case of Eskom. They blocked certain costs of Eskom that should have been allowed into the tariff. And that is why this 54 billion rand is now going to be clawed back through increased prices. But the point I'm making is that there are many, many billions of costs that should not have been passed through to the country, such as corruption and fraud and procurement irregularity over the last 10 years. And in particular, I want to point to prepayment electricity fraud, which is costing the country billions of rands, costing Eskom billions of rands every year. And to my knowledge, those costs are being passed through to the customer, and they are costs that should not be passed because they result from inefficiency and poor management on the side of Eskom. So those are the kind of costs that should not be passed.
Chris, we have plenty of questions and concerns. I would love us to explore those in the next 5 minutes or so. So I, very quickly, before I take our voice note, I'd like to find out, and it's an unfair question, perhaps you'll refer it to the legal eagles. To what extent can customers, Eskom customers, take these costs back to NERSA, petition the court for NERSA either to suspend the costs or for NERSA to absorb the cost because of their own mistakes? I'm sure the structure doesn't allow NERSA to do that generally, but I'm just trying to think on the side of the consumer. What sort of recourse do they have?
Yeah. Well, I think customers of electricity need to become more active in this matter. And I am aware of two civil society organizations, NGOs, that do look at these things closely and do act on behalf of customers. And look, there are many organizations. A single customer on its own has very little power. But if customers band together in the form of industry associations of large customers, there's an association called the Energy Intensive User Group. There's BUSA, there's BLSA, and there's a whole range of civil society NGOs who act on behalf of citizens. And these are the kind of organizations that can and should take up this matter, and they can take this matter on review in the courts. And the courts can send this matter back to NERSA and say, do your job properly. Yeah. Eskom has done it repeatedly, looking after its own interests.
Sure.
But customers and their own industry associations need to look after the interests of customers.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen now.
Allow me to take just a couple of voice notes, please. I'm going to ask you to collectively respond to them briefly, and then I'll read one or two voice notes and we'll call it a day on our conversation, Chris. 26 after 10, 072-702-1702.
How much money does Eskom want to steal from us? They've got a profit of billions, and then they still want to increase the money to make more money. So who can steal more money?
Hi. Good morning, 702. This is a joke, guys, man. How can you make a mistake of a 54 billion rand? A mistake of 54 billion rand. Then you say we've got people who say saving the government. No, guys, come on. It's not possible, man. Thanks. This is Patrick and Perry.
Hi, good morning, Joya from the East Rand. Well, I think this is a big scam between NERSA and Eskom. My view is NERSA must provide facts, not just say we made a big mistake. If they did make a big mistake, then they must be responsible for it, not we, the people. We didn't make a mistake. We keep paying for this useless and incompetent two organizations. Therefore, I call on the people to boycott the increases. And there's many ways we can make it. We can make them apologize. So if NERSA made a mistake, they must pay for it. Thank you.
Morning, Tabo and Chris. I just have one question. Just like all other government departments and parastatals, etc. How much longer are we going to be suffocated by increased costs due to inefficiencies, lack of experience, lack of knowledge, to people who get appointed to these very important top jobs? The cost is always borne by the citizens of this country. Everybody's mistakes we pay for. We just cannot afford it anymore. Please, look at what's happening around the world, guys. This country has to open its eyes. Look what's happening in Indonesia. Look what happened in Kenya. And it's on the increase. And yet us who pay the taxes are being taxed to death.
Chris, in closing, just a few seconds. At which point do we know already at which point will these increases start affecting us as customers, as payers, as rate payers?
Firstly, just to say that what we've heard from these voice notes is the deep frustration that customers have with the activities, the actions of Eskom and NERSA, and I share this frustration. You asked the question, when will these start impacting us directly? And the answer is on the 1st of April 2026.
Goodness me.
The first clawback of this mistake will start impacting the price of electricity in the form of a higher electricity price than was determined in the MYPD6 multi-year price determination. So also there was a question about consequences. Who is being held accountable for this? And NERSA has acknowledged that it made a mistake, but it says it's too early to start talking about accountability yet. They've only just reached this so-called settlement. It's been a secret settlement. There's been complaints about lack of transparency, which I share. I think it's irregular that this should have been done. The settlement should have been reached behind closed doors. So they do say that there will be consequence management of some kind or other. And I just want to point out, though, 54 billion rand is not the kind of money that Eskom has in their back pocket, nor is it the kind of money that NERSA have in their back pocket. Ultimately, either the customer is going to pay, that is you and I are going to pay this 54 billion rand through increased tariffs, or the taxpayer is going to be paid, because government and Eskom and NERSA get bailouts and from the fiscus, and the fiscus is paid by the taxpayer. So one way or another, we pay for these mistakes. Whether we pay as taxpayers, whether we pay as customers of electricity, we pay.
I gotta run, but I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I didn't love the tariff hike discussions, but thanks for your insights. They came very invaluably, especially given that we understand that from the 1st of April, 2026, we'll start forking out that huge bill. Very interesting. Chris Yelland, energy expert, 29 minutes to 11 o'clock. Running a little bit late, so please bear with us. Forgive us. What's the latest on Eyewitness News headlines?
Thanks, Thabo. Good morning. The once damaged Lilian Ngoyi Street in the Johannesburg CBD will not be open to traffic today, despite phase 1 of repairs being completed. Officials had promised that it would be business as usual in the once bustling route famously known as Bree Street. The street was destroyed by an underground gas explosion in July 2023, which killed one person and injured many others. 2 years after the tragic Usindiso building fire, which claimed 76 lives, the survivors of the blaze say they are still waiting for justice. Yesterday marked the 2-year anniversary since the devastating blaze gutted the hijacked building in Johannesburg's Marshall Town. Whilst Thembiso Mhlalose is currently on trial for murder, attempted murder and arson, some survivors believe the wheels of justice are turning too slow. And a suspect in the fatal shooting of prominent Ukrainian politician Andrei Parubai has been arrested. The 54-year-old parliamentarian was killed by an attacker posing as a courier in the western city of Lviv on Saturday. The Ukrainian Interior Minister says the suspect has been detained and is under police guard. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling on the M1 North, we've got delays between the Boysons Road exit and the double-decker section. There's also queuing traffic in Parktown along Empire Road approaching the M1 exit. While traveling in Devland, we've got delays on the Golden Highway between Union Avenue and the N1 due to long-term roadworks. There's also roadworks taking place in the Boxburg area along the N17 West, right near Carnival City, bound to cause delays. Please be on the lookout if you're traveling along that route. I'll have more updates for you. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Are you living with diabetes? Tired of painful fingerstick tests? Introducing a new continuous glucose monitoring system from Abbott Laboratories. The Freestyle Libre 2 system sends glucose readings straight to your compatible smartphone. With minute-by-minute glucose readings, optional glucose alarms, and excellent accuracy, the Freestyle Libre system is here to support you in the management of your diabetes. For more information and where to buy your Freestyle Libre 2 sensor, visit www.freestylelibre.za.com. Now available at your local pharmacy.
Meet Uminathi Nyaba, a powerhouse storyteller and actor graduate who earned her Bachelor of Arts in Motion Picture cum laude. From a young age, Uminathi knew that storytelling was her calling, but financial hurdles nearly dimmed her dream. That all changed when she received the Hollywood Foundation's Future is Bright bursary. It lifted a huge weight off her shoulders and gave her the freedom to focus fully on her craft. She began making bold moves and creating incredible work, including her award-winning short film, which was selected for international screenings. Thanks to the Hollywood Foundation, Uminathi is ready to tell the stories the world needs to hear. Follow the Hollywood Foundation social pages for more stories of stars on the rise. Sizofunda sonke.
Whenever you hear deep in the heart and art of jazz, think Sia Makuzeni with the big band, Jasmine Horn, Alun Wad, The Baylor Project, Jose James sings Badu, Umusangare, Esperanza Spalding, Michelle Dugiocello, Elaine, Trezo, Munei, Mondli Ngobo, and many other spectacular icons. Think Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, 4 stages at the Santon Convention Center, 26th, 27th and 28th September, and take me there. Book via Ticketmaster.
702 and corporates that care with Ekwele are talking about Ekwele's commitment to uplifting communities across South Africa.
From Ekwele's side, we get a lot of requests for water. I think the access to clean drinking and safe water has become a daily challenge for many people. So we get a lot of requests. We really deliver hundreds and thousands of bottles every year. Recently, we saw a need for a more longer-term solution, more sustainable water solutions. When we turned 25, we delivered 25 water tanks to 25 communities all over South Africa. And it was really heartwarming to see what a difference a tank can make. The first tank we put up was at a school in Groudville, and KwaZulu-Natal, and the principal told us now they don't need to close their school anymore because sometimes they had to close school early because they didn't have water.
Ekwele, making a positive impact one drop at a time. Learn more at ekwele.co.za. 702, let's walk the talk.
For more about 702, go to primemediaplus.com.
24 to 11, Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12. Really appreciate your time. In the past half hour, we spoke to Chris Yelland, the energy expert, and we were just exploring that huge controversial mistake by NERSA that is going to be passed on to us. It's worth about 54 billion rands, and Chris says it can escalate to about 96 billion rands. That money ultimately must be paid by both you and I, despite the fact that it was their mistake and the out-of-court settlement was reached in a very secretive way. What recourse do you have? We were just exploring that in the past half hour, and I see that some of your text messages are still coming through. This segment, though, we want to look at something a little bit different, the state of our medical system. We often hear that there is a shortage of doctors in our health system, and that hospitals, clinics do not have sufficient doctors. Many would queue at a local clinic waiting for a doctor up to hours on end, and some may even go home without even seeing a doctor, only to be told to come the very next week. This is a serious problem. We can't avoid it any longer. And South Africa's health system is truly under pressure. I think all of us can agree. And the doctors are at the center of it all. Whilst thousands of patients queue daily at overstretched hospitals and clinics, many qualified doctors are just sitting at home, hoping to be employed somehow, waiting for government posts, applying, browsing their phones, turning newspaper pages and calling friends. And at times those jobs never come. They never materialize. At the same time, South Africa is also losing medical talent to other countries, as we may have read, to their abroad counterparts. And frustrated doctors seek better pay elsewhere. They want better conditions and career opportunities outside of South Africa. And the shortages in the public sector are not just about numbers, really. They're also about sustainability of the healthcare system. The morale of young doctors, you might have encountered it if you've gone to a public hospital or even a private one, whether South Africa can keep up with the rising demand for quality care, where some doctors work up to 24-hour shifts, and we'll say that that's normal. It comes with the territory. But working 24 hours is no child's play, especially if you're saving lives. So we've decided to invite Dr. Mzolungile no Digita, who's the CEO of South Africa Medical Association. Dr. Notikita, thanks for your time. This is not an easy topic at all, but welcome to 702. Great having you with us.
No, thank you so much, and I really appreciate the opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We might say that we've touched on this for a couple of times, but the problem still remains. How is it that we still have unemployed doctors in a country that desperately needs healthcare workers such as South Africa?
Yeah, no, Clement, I think this is really has reached crisis levels from where we're sitting as the South African Medical Association. And maybe just for context, I think it would be important for me to explain that the South African Medical Association is basically the national medical association that represents doctors from across public and the private sector. Each country has got its own national medical association, and South Africa is no different. And I think this problem, I mean, we never thought we would get to a point where doctors would be sitting at home when there is a massive need within the system. And I was listening just before we started our conversation on the advert on diabetes, and it just fitted perfectly. Because if you look at diabetes, there's high sugar levels in the blood, but the cells are starving. Yeah. You only need insulin to take that sugar into the cells so that everything is okay.
The analogy is appropriate.
In South Africa, yeah, in South Africa, I think what we need is basically the X factor, which we call leadership, and proper planning for human resources for health. And I must say that when we paint the picture to some of the leaders who might not understand, and I think it's important that we have opportunities like this so that we can explain the real situation on the ground. So, for example, I just went through an article now that shows that most death, especially related to maternal death, they happen in community health centers, district hospitals. And this is because there you don't have the necessary skills. You basically need about 2-3 doctors to successfully conduct a cesarean section. You need a doctor who will put the patient to sleep and monitor the patient while the patient is sleeping. You need an assistant doctor, and then you need a doctor who can then cut and be able to deliver the baby.
Yeah.
In my own personal experience, Clement, I can tell you, I worked in my hometown called Pedi, and there's a hospital there called Nompumelelo Hospital.
Yes.
I have the experience of putting the patient to bed myself, having a nurse to assist me instead of a doctor, and having to operate on that patient. And if that patient complicates, I would have to have my phone open for a specialist to guide me through conducting what we call a B-lynch to try and deal with the bleeding. And the hemorrhage during birth is among the top 4 leading death of the death of women during pregnancy.
Oh, no.
So these are real lives that are being lost on the ground.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's important that South Africans understand that, yes, the queues are also very critical, because it means people lose almost the whole day just to get a consult with a doctor in the public sector. But lives are being lost as well.
Yeah. Doc, I'm just very quick. I'm standing in for Clement. I'm Thabo. So I don't want Clement to sue you and say that you were attributing the wrong identity to him. Yeah, but on a serious note, I'm wondering, but why, if the situation is so dire, if we need doctors so badly, Why is it that we have unemployed doctors? Why is it that they're sitting at home? I would understand if broadcasters are sitting at home, such as myself, because that's okay. But doctors, if you are describing it so vividly as you're doing, what is not working in the health system or in government that would allow doctors to be absorbed as early as possible, so much that we shouldn't have any unemployed doctors?
Yeah, so Tabo, let me apologize with that.
No worries. No worries.
Yeah, I think the important thing, Tabo, maybe as SAMA, what we have done, we've engaged the Ministry of Health on this. And one of the things that the minister is citing as a problem is budgets. He then explains that they've got budgetary issues that are making it difficult for them to absorb post-community service doctors. We've spoken to the ministries of human resources for health, and they've identified, I think, over 2,000 vacant but unfunded posts within the public sector across the country. So the posts are there. So our question was that, I mean, as we speak here today, we are very clear how many doctors are currently doing internship in South Africa. We know.
Yeah.
Both first year and second year interns. That data sits with the ministry. We also know how many of them are doing community service today.
Yeah.
We also know how many of them are graduating by the 31st of December.
Yes.
We know. So, and we've known
Yes.
when these guys started medical school. It's not like we didn't know. Part of the bigger thing, which I think is a problem for me, is proper planning. When we sent even students to Cuba, including myself, by the way, I'm a product of that Cuban program.
Yes.
We knew that there was a need for doctors in South Africa. As we sit today, South Africa is sitting at 0.31 per thousand, meaning you have one doctor for every 3,100 people in South Africa. And if you go outside of the city towards the rural areas, that ratio, it gets worse.
Yeah.
So-
But
so
globally,
it's not a
before I go to the break quickly, what's the global average? What's the global average of that ratio, doctor to patients?
So the WHO is recommending around 2.3
Per thousand.
Yeah. So South Africa is sitting at 0.3, meaning at less than half a doctor per thousand.
I'm going to ask you to pardon me for a second, with great apology. I must take a break. I'll be back with you. Dr. Mzulungile Notikita is CEO of South African Medical Association. 13 minutes to 11.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by 30 September.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring Cipla. Their CEO, Paul Miller, will be in conversation with Clement Manyathela. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
Backed by popular demand, legendary jazz icon Kenny G will be performing at the Super Bowl at Sun City on Friday, the 3rd of October. Get ready for an unforgettable night of timeless hits and pure musical magic. Get your tickets from webtickets.co.za. Brought to you by Breakout Events and 702.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
On the next Money Show, Keith Van Sale, co-founder and partner at Knife Capital, joins us as the headmaster of our weekly investment school. He'll look at the pros and cons of investing in unlisted companies. The IDC CEO, Momakgoshi Lekete, delivers her maiden results as the company's new boss. Impala Platinum releasing its annual financial statements. Their CEO, Nico Muller, will take us through those figures and the state of the mining sector in general. Also, analysis of all the top business news of the day.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by APSA CIB, proud sponsor of the SARA Rail Conference 2025. Your story matters. APSA is a registered FSP.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Dr. Mzulungile Notikita is CEO of South African Medical Association, is joining us right now on the line to discuss the current healthcare system, which is under pressure, and doctors are at the center of it. Those who are on the outside want to come in and jump into the train, but there's some inside this train who want to jump out because it's got a lot of pressure. That is, and we're speaking about doctors. It could be that you're a doctor, you're in your third year, fourth year, whatever it is, and you want to give us your insights. I'd love to hear from you, especially as someone on the ground. Maybe you can give us a shout. If you're unemployed, even better as a doctor, and you can tell us your experience. Please feel free to be anonymous. I won't blow your cover. You can just send a text note or a voice note to 072 702 1702. It's always great if we also speak to people who are wearing the shoe and the shoe is pinching them. I'd love to hear from you. Alternatively, if you're a patient and you've also felt the pressure of lack of doctors, also most welcome to share experiences. Could be that you've been going to a clinic, a hospital for some time and you're battling to see doctors. I want to hear from you. You can call us directly on 011-883-0702, 9 minutes to 11. Dr. Notikita, you were still giving us a picture before I rudely interrupted you because I had to go to a break. But generally, do we know how many are still on the outside, doctors who are unemployed? But also, whilst you are answering that, I would like you to touch on the fact that there are those who are on the inside and they want greener pastures elsewhere because the environment is not conducive to retaining them and their skill.
Yeah, so quick one that, at the beginning of this year, we were sitting at around 1.8 doctors that confirmed that they were unemployed. And we ran a survey with them and we got over, I think just 1.2 responded to our survey. But I do think, it's important to also say that there are provinces when you engage with the leadership in the provinces that have responded positively. And I must mention the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We started very, very bad with them, but ultimately we engage with the Premier and the MSC there. They've put together a plan of fundraising within the province, and they've advertised just over, I think, 270 healthcare posts with 150 of them dedicated to doctors. So that kind of addresses, but it's a provincial issue. We've tried with Gauteng, we've seen them advertising, and we've also spoken to the colleagues in the Northern Cape.
Yes,
very difficult to actually get to understand why, when there is some sort of allocation from the national ministry and especially Treasury, because we saw in budget, I think it was 3.0, where there was some allocation towards this. We estimate the ones who would be still out of the system to be sitting just over 630 if all of these other provinces that have advertised actually absorb them.
Yes.
And the colleagues inside the system, it's very difficult, as I explained earlier on, that, one of the problems within the health system is what we call leadership and governance. That is almost non-existent. If you've got people who don't understand how the system works or how the service is delivered, then you have a fundamental problem, because they then don't understand why a district hospital that's got about, let's say, 6 doctors
Yeah.
available during the day, but it goes into a shortage immediately after hours. That's because they are supposed to work from 8 to 4, and then after hours, you then have casualty, which is the emergency unit that needs to be manned. But you have the wards that needs to be manned after hours by a doctor.
Yeah.
You also have one of the demanding wards, which is the maternity ward. So you then need not just you need more people to work over and above the hours that they are supposed to work.
Yes.
And when they don't have the assistance that they need, then mistakes happen because then they want to do everything because they are committed to saving lives.
Yeah.
Just one point
okay.
that I also just think it's important, sometimes it's not understood, especially from Sama,
Yes.
is that sometimes government doesn't understand that a doctor, over and above the employer-employee relationship, that is the contract of employment that we have with government, doctors sign what we call an ethical contract with the community. And that's where I think sometimes government misses us when we critique some of the ways they do things, because we've got an obligation, an ethical obligation to render services. We've taken an oath to do
the
this.
community. Allow me just to squeeze in David, if you will, Doc. We're going to be out of time in note. We have about 3 minutes or so. So I'll just squeeze in David from Pretoria, if you will. Apologies to interrupt. David, you're on the line. We're listening to you. What's on your mind? David in Pretoria, hello?
Hey, Tabo, can you hear me?
Yeah, straight to the question, bro. We all ears.
Okay. So my question, Tabo, is basically, I just want to find out, if you look at medical doctors when they start, right, just after university, their salaries are much higher than other professions, right? If you compare them to engineers, other professionals, you find that their salaries are much higher. Number one. Number two, medical officers are already in the system are overworked, right? They have a minimum number of hours they need to work, and they get paid for that. So my question is there no way to then try and say, let us try and reduce the packages that we give to these guys when they start and streamline them amongst other professions, and then so that we can take on more, and then also reduce the number or the amount of overtime that medical officers are working so that we can then employ more doctors. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, David. Thanks very much for that. There was also very quickly, as you answer that one, Dr. Notikita, there was a question about doctors taking way too much than they ought to as far as overtime is concerned. The floor is yours, Dr. Notikita.
Yeah, so I think for us it's a question of the time invested to produce a doctor. So that's number one. But I also just think if we had proper human resources planning, which is why we are also happy that at least the ministry has now set up a ministerial advisory team to look into some of these human resources policies that include committed overtime, which is what I think the caller was talking to, and the basic salary of a doctor. In fact, we at Summer believe that the basic salary of a doctor, if you take out the overtime, is probably very low if you remove the committed overtime. So we would have to look into that. And we've done actually the comparison. We've got a study that shows that South African doctors actually earn 13% lower than what they should be earning if compared with their global peers, which then talks to the second issue that when you have other places that could take them, then that becomes a problem. And at some, we've blocked, I think, about 3 agencies that were coming to us saying, you seem to have a problem. You've got doctors that you've trained, and we know South African trained doctors are actually one of the best in the world, just like our nurses. So we would really gladly take them. And some of these agencies are actually very from I think there's 3 different countries, first world countries, and we've told them in no uncertain terms that we unite doctors for the health of the nation, and we would really like South Africans to work in South Africa because South Africans need them.
Yeah, Doc,
So we've been very clear on that.
About that, and we appreciate your patriotism as far as that is concerned. We need to talk more about this. Sadly, we're out of time, and we need to give this topic more time, and we'll definitely invite you again, either on this platform or my colleagues, or other colleagues in other shows will do so, because I think it's worthy of more intense ventilation. Really appreciate your time, Dr. Mzulu Notikita, CEO of South African Medical Association. It's 11:11.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
In business, you need to cut costs, not corners. Make the smart move and switch to OUTsurance Business today. You could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium for plumbing, electrical, tradesman services, and other industries. OUTsurance Business are trusted experts in business insurance. And it's so easy to switch. Get a quote today. Call 0600 60,000. or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer in FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
Pneumococcal disease can strike at any time, especially if you live with a chronic condition or have weakened immunity. If you're 19 and older with the chronic disease, vaccination can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia. The risk increases for people 65 and older, and vaccination is advised to help prevent serious illness. Ask your healthcare professional about pneumococcal vaccination. Don't wait. Vaccinate. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The once damaged Lilian Ngoyi Street in the Johannesburg CBD will not be open to traffic today, despite phase 1 of the repairs being completed. Officials had promised that it would be business as usual in the once bustling street, famously known as Bree Street. The route was destroyed by an underground gas explosion in July 2023, which killed one person and injured many others. Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero is on Lilian Ngoyi Street this morning to announce the completion of phase 1. Alfara Mushwana is also there.
Before the underground gas explosion damaged parts of Lilian Ngoyi Street, the road was surfaced with tar. The rebuilt section has now been laid with paving bricks, marking a shift from the traditional tar surfacing. Johannesburg Roads Agency CEO Zweli Nyathi shares why the city opted for this approach.
The city is moving towards the smart direction. That is why you find yourself standing on a pavement. Some will argue, why pavement? We are beautifying the city all the way to the transit mall.
But to the surprise of motorists and residents, the street is still closed off, with safety nets surrounding the area affected by the blast. Dust still covers sections of the newly reconstructed road as cleanup work by the city's construction teams remains outstanding. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg.
Staying in Johannesburg, 2 years after the tragic Usindiso building fire which claimed 76 lives, the survivors of the blaze say they are still waiting for justice. Yesterday marked the 2-year anniversary since the devastating blaze gutted the hijacked building in Johannesburg's Marshall Town. Whilst Tembiso Mdlalose is currently on trial for murder, attempted murder and arson, some survivors believe the wheels of justice are turning too slow. Tandoluthe Ngobo reports.
Many of the victims who survived the blaze say the government has abandoned them and the promises that were made have not been fulfilled. Survivor Sihle Dube says life after the incident has been difficult.
I'm now paying rent in another building. The building is not in a good state, but I'm staying there.
A commission of inquiry into the devastating fire found the city of Johannesburg liable for what it says was an avoidable tragedy.
This building now, we heard that mayor wants to demolish and build an administrative offices here. instead of following on what the Commission of Inquiry stated.
The survivors also want a memorial site to commemorate the lives lost. Thandul Shingcobo, Eyewitness News.
DA's finance spokesperson Mark Burke says financial crimes in the private sector cannot go unchecked as the party again calls for the clean governance across the board. The DA, which is the second largest party in the government of national unity, wants some of its reforms to be adopted in a bid to create jobs and grow the economy. South Africa is still plagued by a staggering jobless rate of more than 33%, which the country's economy continues to undershoot. Burke says a failure to address crime and corruption will only make matters worse.
If we're serious about growing the economy, creating jobs, I think we need to get it right that we go after, especially white-collar crime seems pernicious to me, and I'm not excluding the private sector from that. In fact, one of the reasons I came into public service is because I was so hurtful of us in South Africa pretending that the private sector isn't complicit in a lot of the crime happening, the corruption happening. And we need to put some head on pikes and make examples.
And a suspect in the fatal shooting of prominent Ukrainian politician Andrei Purabai has been arrested. The 54-year-old parliamentarian was killed by an attacker posing as a courier in the western city of Lviv on Saturday. The Ukrainian Interior Minister says the suspect has been detained and is under police guard. Purabai rose to prominence during Ukraine's Euromade and Maidan protests, which advocated closer ties with the EU and brought down pro-Russian former President Viktor Yanukovych in 2014. Gold is trading at $3,480.28 an ounce. The rand is at 17.62 to the dollar, 23.84 to the pound, 20.65 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $67.20 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Parktown, we've got an accident on Empire Road. It's right near the M1, causing delays. There's also queuing traffic because of another accident seen in the Parktown area on the M1 North near Oxford Road. It's also causing delays. The southerly direction of this route is also affected right at the Kilani Bends. Please be on the lookout.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 32 and 33 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the once damaged Lilian Ngoyi Street in the Johannesburg CBD will not be open to traffic today, despite phase 1 of repairs being completed.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 11 o'clock, and it brings us to the next feature, Family Matters, which we'll touch on in a short while. Previously, we were talking about the situation of the health system as regards to doctors in South Africa. It's dire. It's not looking good at all. About 1,800 unemployed doctors. Some obviously may be absorbed, and it still leaves a big chunk of doctors who are unemployed sitting at home whilst vacancies need to be filled. And the queues are getting longer, and patients need doctors' attention. What is it saying about us? It's something that we should revisit. I could not go through all your messages. We had limited time, and I had committed that we will bring back the CEO of South African Medical Association back to the studio to ventilate on those issues. But keep those conversations going on various platforms that we occupy: on X at Radio 702 at Humphrey TSM, on Facebook 702, and also on YouTube where you can watch me live right now. And apparently, some of you are complaining that I am bouncy and I'm rocking like a boat as I speak. And I'm like, guys, I'm on radio. I'm a radio person, not a TV person. You see, the technological advancement of radio has turned the medium against us, against people like me who are not used to the cameras at all. But if you want to tune in, feel free to do so. Am I bouncing a lot? And I see one person was worried. Why is Thabo bouncing on the chair as he's speaking? Perhaps it's my mannerism. But I'm more than happy for you to join us on YouTube as well and all other platforms. By the way, you're most welcome to participate by calling in on any issue that we are discussing. Feel free to do so on 011-883-0702. Alternatively, send a voice note, a text message to 072-702-1702. And also on YouTube, you can also throw in your worth there in the comment section. Either you are speaking about the topic or my bouncing on the chair. Either way is fine with me. On a very serious note, though, I'd like us to touch on the issue of normalizing mental health on the Family Matters issue.
702.
Family Matters.
You would think that it's a buzzword. Everyone else is talking about mental health these days. It's always been there. It's just that perhaps we have found appropriate terminology over the past years to really define this phenomenon that is taking place in our lives. Some people lose jobs and they go into a depressed mode for a certain amount of time, not feeling well. All of those issues contribute to how we show up at work, at home, and elsewhere. Earlier on, I was arguing that family is the biggest school of all times, and it's where we need to find comfort. It's where we need to find refuge. But that very same place can be a place where we receive so much criticism amongst those that we love the most. Those who are supposed to be protective of us can turn into enemies, especially when you have a mental health issue and you could be labeled, you could be stigmatized. Lawyer, and this, that, and the other. But there's thorough understanding that is needed around this issue of mental health. And I did mention that this family unit is very important, but if stigma exists inside a family where mental health is not addressed, a lot of people perhaps could stop attending family events, could stop interacting with extended relatives and so on, and want to be in their own space. So we're talking about mental health with family and friends where it can be a challenge, but it's an essential step in breaking the stigma that surrounds these conversations. Breaking the stigma around mental health begins at home by initiating conversations with family and friends. And these conversations are a foundation of a more open society where everyone feels somewhat safe to express their mental health needs. And how is mental health perceived in your family? I want to know from you. Please let us know. Is this something that you discuss at home when there is a function, family gathering, family picnic, or you're just sitting around dinner table watching TV? Does this feature in your conversations to find out where each of you are as far as mental health is concerned? Or do you overlook it? Do you go through depressed episodes on your own because your family will never ever get you? Please let us know and share those right now with us on 072-702-1702. Dr. Dumi Mashego, clinical and sports psychologist, joins us as she will be guiding us gently along this journey of understanding mental health within a family setup. Dr. Mashego, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning to the listeners. Hope you're well, Thabo.
I'm chilled. I'm all the better for speaking to you because I have heard you before and I know that you are going to be a guiding hand on this seemingly simple but very profound matter of mental health, Doc. So let me just kick off. Why is it so often it's so difficult for families to talk openly about mental health issues compared to physical health? If my hand is aching, I can tell my family that, hey, my hand is not being okay. But if I've got mental health issues, it's so difficult for me to express that. Why is that the case, Doc?
Sadly, in 2025, we're still struggling with stigma. And it's not just societal stigma or familial stigma where people are, stigmatizing you for struggling with your mental health. It's also self-stigma where people who are diagnosed or who are meant to be diagnosed are so critical of self they stigmatize themselves, and therefore it makes it difficult to also treat them or give them intervention because, unfortunately, or I don't know, with psychological issues, you need to be aware that you have a problem for you to benefit from the intervention. That's why, we talk about people with substance problems, that you just need to have the awareness that you have a problem, and you don't necessarily need to come sober. Just be aware that when you drink and when others drink, it doesn't impact you the same. So there's still really a long way to go, whereby we need to talk about the predisposition for mental health issues that is similar to someone predisposed to cancer and diabetes and cholesterol, right? You can have someone eating very well, but for whatever reason, genetic predisposition, they develop, cholesterol. It's the same way with mental health illness, that me and you can go through similar things with control variables, yet one of us develops anxiety and the other one doesn't. So it's because I'm predisposed to it and you are not. So really, this conversation is something that we still need to have out there in society, but within families, but also to internalize it for our own self as well.
Could it be that our frame of reference when we speak into mental health is just insanity, clinical insanity, and nothing else? We do not necessarily understand various compartments that may be resident in that family of mental health.
Definitely. People, think they are crazy or deem themselves crazy or others crazy when, someone has, for example, does have an episode of mania, be it depression or whatever they present with. And also just because people feel like with mental health issues, we must snap out of it. I must quickly just snap out of it and get back to being ordinary. And I always say to people, but you are struggling, and usually there's brain chemistry involved. If you break a leg, you don't just go back to doing things like, going about your day. You literally go to the doctor and you get treatment. So it's the same way with trying to snap. It's almost like trying to push a car to Cape Town from, Polokwane, and it has no petrol. But you keep saying, I'll get there, and I keep pushing. Of course, you're not going to make it. And unfortunately, with mental health disorders, the impact is so severe the more you don't attend to it. So you progressively get worse.
Doc, let's take a few steps back, if you will. And we often make this assumption whenever we're speaking about these things, that we've got a common understanding or definition of these phenomena that we often refer to. And when we're speaking about, if you will, mental health, what are we speaking about exactly, so that we are all on the same page? I know it's a very broad question that may have an open-ended answer, but some of the characteristics that we could be referring to when we are saying that you've got mental health problems that a family needs to be aware of, what are we talking about?
So mental health is when we bring in things that happen in the ordinary day, meaning you get things like your anxiety, for example, whereby it runs on a continuum, meaning you can have someone have slight anxiety and they're able to overcome it, or maybe in the extreme sense, it's so extreme that they need intervention and sometimes medication. So when we talk about mental health, is someone being able to self-regulate, meaning if you are a little bit anxious or you struggle with some anxiety, you are able to regulate that emotion and get back to the norm. But if you struggle or you are predisposed to mental health disorders such as anxiety disorder, you are likely to struggle with, self-regulating self. And I think what makes it challenging is we're talking about day-to-day emotions. So, for example, you get someone who is sad, but that is very different from someone who is depressed. And I think it's also in our everyday language where you say, I'm a little bit sad. But someone who is depressed, they feel like they're in a dark hole. Even if you put the light on them, they will not see that light. And I always say to people that we need to look at healing holistically. So with mental health, the mind is so powerful that it will carry you and determine your reality, but you also just need to balance it with the body. But we don't usually balance or take care of the mind, and we end up struggling or being overwhelmed. Things that usually don't overwhelm us tend to overwhelm us if we are struggling with things like depression. So I think it's basically just someone struggling to be comfortable in their skin, struggling to, navigate life and becoming overwhelmed right, by things that were not so overwhelming to other people or to themselves.
Dr. Tumi Mashego is my guest. She's clinical and sports psychologist. We're speaking about normalizing mental health conversations in families. It could be that you've experienced that in your own family. You'd like to share your view, or perhaps you just want to deposit an opinion and run away. That's also allowed. You can do so via a voice note that you can send to 072 702 1702 or a text message to that very same number. Could also be maybe that you want some answers from our guest. You are most welcome. I'm sure she'll be generous with that. Simply call us on 011 883 0702. It's 20 minutes after 11 o'clock.
Okay, truck 7, that has 0 warning lights. Truck 8, it's just been serviced. I guess we're running like a well-oiled machine. Where would I be without MyWay's comprehensive cover for my vans and trucks? Plus, cover for my customers' orders with goods and transit insurance. I guess we'll never know.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. MyWay. Live your way.
Saddle up for springtime success with Hollywood Bets. Experience the thrill of the turf and take a shot at a share of 100,000 Rand in cash and betting vouchers. All you have to do is bet 50 Rand or more on any horse racing meeting online or visit your nearest branch to enter. Spring into action and bet now for your shot at exciting rewards.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
This is the story of our Nando's Flame Grilled Chicken, marinated for 24 hours in our unique peri-peri recipe. Kissed by fire, full of flavor, perfectly grilled. And like any story, this story of our full peri-peri chicken has two sides. Yours to choose, yours to share. Enjoy the Nando's full and two sharing meal. That's our full chicken and two sharing sides of your choice for only 277 Rand.
Looking for real ways to live greener? Then don't miss Green Tip of the Week, your weekly dose of sustainable inspiration from eco-entrepreneurs to climate champions. We sit down from the people making real change. Catch Real Tip of the Week every Tuesday on Afternoon Drive with John Pullman, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 702. Proudly brought to you by Volvo. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
702.
Family Matters.
Dr. Tumi Mashego joins us, clinical and sports psychologist, talking about normalizing mental health conversations in our families. Dr. Tumi, is there a proper way of introducing this subject, especially if you come from a family that never dealt with this complex phenomena before? Is there a way of trying to get everyone on the same page so that you don't just drop it like a bomb when you are really erratic and everything else is falling apart? How do you gradually introduce it, subtly so or gently so that everyone takes up to it and you walk on a journey together?
It's not always easy, to get people on board when it comes to, sadly, mental health issues. But I'm of view that if you are struggling, to always talk about your struggle, to say, I'm struggling to get out of bed. It really is not easy for me to do the things I used to do. I'm struggling to eat. I'm struggling to do A, B, and C. And therefore, there's a need for me to go and consult with someone who, does do that, psychologist, for example, because I am not okay. So I think it's always to verbalize your struggle. And also, if also you are aware of someone in the family who's not okay, I always say, bear in mind that you're not sort of telling the person you're always sleeping nowadays, you don't eat, you're not the same, you've changed. Rather use I. So I'm concerned that now, Thabo, I noticed that you're not eating as much as you used to. Are you okay? And remember, it can be the other way as well. So not some people don't eat, some people eat too much, meaning there's some sort of change in their habits. Some don't sleep, some oversleep. Some struggle with, being the life of the party. They were never the life of the party. Suddenly they are. And some people who were are now suddenly withdrawn. So I think it's really just being aware that life does happen. Not everyone has the same capacity to deal with stresses of life. And sometimes you just become overwhelmed. But there is help out there. There's clinical psychologists. We are there. And people say we are expensive. And I don't think we are. But we are there also in the public sector. Just go to your nearest clinic and find out where you can, seek psychiatric help. And the waiting period might be a bit long, but please be patient. We are available.
Yeah, and I suppose the cost factor is due to the fact that a lot of people still do not understand value, right? And in a sense that you're expecting to pay this much and get something tangible back. But this intangible can really sustain you and help you through your work and through everything else that you do in order for you to keep making a living the way that you've been doing. So I suppose the fact that it's not seen, it's not touched, makes it a little bit abstract for us to get it.
Definitely. And I think that's what people struggle with. But I always use the example of the athletes I work with, that the reason why people feel finished comrades, it's beyond the body, because they're asking their body to do things beyond, what the body is capable of. What carries them is their mind. So you really need to ensure that you tap into the mind, and the mind will bring you great things beyond your imagination, and I think that's where, the conversations need to happen that are sort of informal, not necessarily in a one-on-one session when someone is in crisis, but let's just talk about actually what is the mind, because I don't think people actually comprehend what the mind is and also what it can unlock, because it determines our reality, right? It could be simple things like, when you're in the kitchen making your tea, and you're already thinking about the traffic. Your mind, it believes that there is traffic. You actually are in the traffic while in the kitchen. Yeah. And that's why when you get into the car or your transport, you now cannot recall if you switched off the stove, if you locked the door, then you actually have to turn back, because that's just how powerful the mind is. When you're telling it there's traffic, it believes you, whether there's traffic or not. But it's also powerful in that when you do a 360 on it, it will show you things beyond your imagination.
Dr. Dumi, the issue of age also comes up when we speak about family, because family is generally a hierarchical structure. And we have children, we have this generation and the next generation, and that goes in that ladder form, if you will. Does age matter when where mental health is concerned? Could it be that younger ones are dismissed, that you're too young to be having these sorts of problems? You're not even paying a bond already, but you have these mental issues that you've raised. To what extent does age play a role in the discussions around mental health?
Definitely the generations before, or the older generations, tend to be dismissive towards children and think children are weak, or they're sensitive, or they're actually disrespectful when they verbalize some of their challenges, or, to call out toxicity in the family. But we really need to understand that where they come from, the older generations, or, the grandparents of today, they need to be aware that just because they didn't have available to them resources does not mean that they were not depressed. Because if you sit with them and actually have a conversation with them, you get the sense that, they didn't have a choice but to push through, but actually some of them struggled. Why? You see how they coped with alcohol, or they had ways of coping that were not quite healthy. It's just, it did not present itself the same way it's presenting in the children of today, where they are vocal about their struggles. So when you sit actually with the adults, or the generations that are a bit older, you get the sense that they were actually struggling with their mental health, especially whereby there's families where the children have depression. When you look at the family line, you do get a sense that, yes, actually the adults of this family did have traits of depression, but now it's more pronounced in the children, or they are more vocal about it. And actually the entire family did have traits of this, because there is a genetic predisposition for things like your schizophrenia, depression, mania, etc.
29 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. You are on 702 Thabo in for Clement. We're together till 12. And in this feature, we call it Family Matters. Today we're discussing normalizing mental health conversations in families, where we do not dismiss people as just erratic, as crazy, as Looney Tunes, but we don't label them. We get to understand each other, because there could be a whole lot of issues that are underlying. And so we want to hear from you. We'd like to hear from you about you and your family. Do you ever talk about mental health as far as your family is concerned? And how is it received? How do you bring it up in conversations? Around dinner tables, you're having a function, around a braai area, and you bring out this issue of mental health. How does it manifest? And how was it received when you brought it up? Please let us know on 072 702 1702 1130. Eyewitness News headlines with Mbali Dlamini. She'll give us the very latest. Welcome, Mbali. Good morning.
Thanks, Thabo. A very good morning. The man convicted of the rape and murder of 6-year-old Amandla Samane has been handed 2 life sentences. 25-year-old Petesi Miao pleaded guilty to violating the child in October last year in his shack in Orlando East in Soweto. He also pleaded guilty to murdering her, saying it was to conceal the rape. The Mozambican national has also been handed 2 years each for kidnapping and contravening the Immigration Act. Some frustrated Coronationville residents are once again protesting against the lack of water in that area. Community members say they've been without supply for more than 3 weeks now. Households, businesses and healthcare centres have for years contended with water cuts in the region. And a retired teacher who lost 3 of her adult children in the Boksburg explosion in 2022 says she wants compensation for her loss. The families of 41 people who died and those who survived have now filed a multi-million rand lawsuit against entities that they believe should be held accountable, including the trucking company, the labour broker of the driver and the city of Ekurhuleni. Those are the headlines, this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency. Mpumalanga, the place of the rising sun. What's the latest as far as traffic is concerned?
Well, Thabo, we've got delays on a main Reef Road heading towards Amalgam just as you approach the M2 exit. The M2 West in itself backed up coming out of the Crown interchange while traveling in Parktown. We've got an accident on Empire Road right near the M1 exit. It's causing delays. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Mike 1 North between Oxford Road and the Kilani Bends. That's due to an accident, so please be on the lookout there. In Bedfordview, roadworks are taking place on the N12 West right near the Kiludi's interchange, and they are causing delays. Please approach with care if you're traveling along this route. Karabo Jali will have your next traffic update at the top of the hour. Onward, stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Explore the wonders of Mpumalanga. Discover the ultimate wildlife experience that brings you closer to nature. Get your adrenaline rush with endless adventure activities. Explore breathtaking 4x4 routes or hike the Blyde River Canyon, the 3rd largest in the world. Unwind with spectacular landscapes and majestic waterfalls. Make Mpumalanga your destination of choice. Mpumalanga, embrace the unknown. Live the adventure. This message is brought to you by the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency. Mpumalanga, the place of the rising sun. Visit mpumalanga.com for more information.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 2 kg Tastic long grain, parboiled, brown or soft absorbing rice assorted for $34.99. Save 10 Rand with Spar Rewards, or 2-liter Spar sunflower or canola oil for $69.99 with Spar Rewards. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 7 September 2025 while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
It's time to eat, dance, and celebrate. The DSTV Delicious Festival, powered by Lotto Star, is serving up 2 days of world-class entertainment, from international acts to SA's finest artists, alongside culinary masterpieces from the best local chefs. Browse fashion and art. Take part in live cooking demos and soak up the festival's electric atmosphere. Saturday, 20 September is for you and your crew. And Sunday, 21 September is for the family picnic vibes. DSTV is turning 30 and you're invited to the party. 1 ticket, endless experiences. Tickets at Ticketmaster. More on deliciousfestival.com.
Your office is more than just a place to work. It's a reflection of your success. At Desk and Chair, we help you elevate your workspace with locally manufactured desks and a wide range of chairs to suit your style and budget. Our expert consultants are with you every step of the way, from planning to delivery and assembly. Visit our showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better.
702.
Family Matters.
Family Matters indeed. 25 minutes to 12 o'clock. It's not Clement, it's Thabo, and we're together till 12. I keep those voice notes coming through to 072 702 1702, and your voice messages and text messages to that number. However, if you'd like to call us directly, please feel free to do so. One, I fully understand that it's not an easy discussion to delve into, especially if you are just calling in and exposing yourself, almost becoming naked, metaphorically speaking, of course, in front of everyone, and raising these mental health issues where stigma is so prevalent, and many of us would hesitate to even venture an opinion on such a topic. But this just proves that a number of people are holding back because society has not opened up enough to the questions of mental health, mental wellness. We are not yet destigmatized altogether. We are not yet all sober for it to understand that we should not be judging each other. It happens to the best of us. And there are various platforms of assistance that could also provide help for you. SADC being one out of many. And this reminds me many years when I worked for a different station and John was also there. We were working out after talking about mental wellness issues, mental health issues. And I was asking him as we're talking after the show and the guest had just left. And I said, but why would people get depressed? It's life. And I mean, when you have difficulties, you must just move on. And I mean, I don't forget what John Polman said to me after that day. He said, listen, we're not all the same. We don't absorb these things in a very same way. So we must be careful and tread gently when other people express their issues of mental health. And from that day henceforth, I realized that the fact that I may react this way does not make me right, better than someone else who may react in a different way. So I would like to urge you, I'd like to invite you and say this is a safe space. Your question could perhaps give someone else permission to also ask a subsequent inquiry that could be of help to a larger community. Does your family speak about mental health? How do you deal with it in your family? Or do you feel free to raise these issues in your family of mental health? It could be that you are depressed, you've got anxiety issues, and things are just not computing as they ought to. You feel mentally overwhelmed by this, that, and the other. How do you bring it up? What sort of conversations do you have? Is it receptive to your family? Do you speak about it? Please let us know on 072 702 1702. And as I said, my guest is Dr. Dumi Mashego, clinical and sports psychologist. Dr. Mashego, there's a WhatsApp that came through here, and I'd like you to venture your expertise opinion, if you will. And it reads as thus. Good morning, Thabo. Most black people don't understand mental illness or mental condition. They'd rather say that you must go and do a traditional initiation ceremony, ukutwasa, and become a sangoma. This comes from Anonymous in Soweto.
Sadly, yes, there is still, that struggle when it comes to mental health issues. And I always task, the people who come in to say they did go through the traditional process. And then I ask them, are you feeling better? Are you doing okay? Because it means it didn't do what it was supposed to do if you're still struggling with anxiety, right? If you're still struggling with the depression. So then I talk about, how when we talk about depression, it's what's happening, in the mind. And I'm not saying you're imagining it, but it just means that the subconscious mind carries these traumas or these experiences, good and bad, that we have, but until you sit with them, they just wait for you. And I think that's the difficulty with these things, is that it doesn't matter how long it has passed. Maybe someone passed away 20 years ago. If you didn't grieve and process that pain, when we open that box now, 20 years later, the pain feels as raw as it did the day the person passed. But until you sit with it, right, it might actually become what we call your personality. That's how people develop, the personality disorders that are out there. People with antisocial personalities who kill, for example, with no remorse. When you sit with them and ask them, why do you do what you do? They'll tell you, dog, when I was 3, this happened to me, so I'm angry. And no one is born angry, right? So meaning the 3-year-old who was traumatized is now showing up in the 40-year-old who's killing people with no remorse. And it's not to excuse their behavior. It's just to understand how powerful, raw, unprocessed things of the subconscious are, and how they become your character. And we say things like, they are like that, or unjalo. No one is born angry, honestly. It's because of what happened to them, and maybe there was no opportunity for them to be given, to process those things, or they choose not to deal with it, because most of the personality disorders is a choice, right? Because you choose not to seek the help for you to be okay. But yes, you do get things like depression. I don't think if we could choose things in this life, people would choose to struggle with depression. So when someone does struggle with it, we need to really pay attention to that. But as I said at the beginning, unfortunately, with psychological problems, if you don't see that you have a problem and need help, you will not benefit from the help. No one can force you into getting help, and no one can love you out of your depression. The onus is on you to do the work, which is not always easy. It takes courage to come see someone like me.
19 minutes to 12. Straight to your calls. Disemelo, thanks for calling us. You are in Melrose. Good morning.
Yes. Hi there, Thabo, and your guest. You know what? I just felt really, really compelled. I used to be one of those people, very cynical, had your whole life together. When someone is suffering with depression, like snap out of it. Yeah. Until my child was infected. There's nothing more painful. And, to be faced with the realization, this thing is real. Yeah. And so I just urge people just to have the grace, just because you have it figured out together. And also, even as a health coach myself, I'm into like healthy living, healthy this, healthy that, and all of that type of stuff. I have my life together, or at least I think I do. But I'm telling you, when your child is infected and there's nothing that you can do, and you can see their helplessness, and you are faced to confront, the reality of mental illness, it is really painful. So I think for me, it is very, very important to be very aware and be involved also in your children's lives on a day-to-day. The only one thing, though, that I will mention, I think your guest has just mentioned, to say that people must confront and they must seek help. I am in a situation, I found myself in a situation whereby I had to make decisions for my child. They were not well enough to say, you know what, I need help. They were not. So very often, even therapists, they will tell you, I'm not going to call you, I'm not going to do that. But this helpless person that needs help getting up in the morning, they need help eating. They just need help going to the shower. And yes, it's easy for someone that has it together to say, you know what, I need help. There are instances where they don't even know that they need help. They don't even know how to do that. And so having people around, at least as a parent, I made it my business. I could see this person. This is the child that I brought up, who was happy, who was everything. When I saw the change, And sometimes you just have to take over to a point where they can make decisions, for themselves, So I just want to tell you, mental health is real, and there's nothing more painful than observing your child go through, especially as a parent when you think you've picked everything. Taking them to the best schools, you feed them better, you do that, but something just snaps. And you know what? Let us just be there for our loved ones. And just go the extra mile.
Before you go, if you don't mind, is your child in a better place now? Are you at least taking steps towards the greater help that your child needs?
You know what the saddest thing, Thabo, is?
Yeah.
Medical aid does not even know.
Oh, man.
There is no higher plan. My child has been in an institution 28 days, medical aid, and no longer. And then we had to find ways, and we had to dig in deep, to get them additional help. But you know what? He's got me.
Yeah.
Every single day, whoever it is, that is why I felt compelled to even call.
Yeah.
And every help that I can get him from church, from whatever, I continue to do. But I realize I just have to be there right up until a point where he can really hold it together for himself.
Yeah.
Yes, he is getting help. Yes, he's on medication. And, I watch what he eats, what he consumes.
Yeah.
Not only physiologically also. We have to be very aware to say, what content is he consuming? What is feeding this? And you know what? Someone that has his future, in front of him, I had to pull him out of university. He was not coping.
Yeah.
But yes, he is getting help. Yeah. And I continue to research also, get more help. He's definitely, and we one of the very few, but by God's grace, every single day, I can see the slow progression, the slow movement, but it's a really, really difficult journey. Yeah. And I really, really, and you know what, and just one last comment. I was at a women's conference in the weekend, and there was a lady there, and I myself need help. So fortunately, I was introduced to people to say, listen, you're not alone. Here's a support group that is available.
Because who's helping the helper, right? As much as you are helping, you also need a little bit of help to keep motivated on this journey. Disemelo, I can't thank you enough for calling. It means the world to us. I wish you strength, I wish you wisdom, and I wish you favor that things may open up and become far better for you and your loved one under this very difficult condition. And I know that things will get better. You are in our thoughts and our sentiment. I'm glad that you called because you represent so many out there. And there's someone out there who felt accommodated by your call. And for your bravery, for your courage to pick up a phone. Thank you so much. Thanks, Disemelo in Melrose. I'll ask Dr. Dumi perhaps to throw in a word or two.
It takes a lot to support someone who is struggling, and strength to Disemelo. And I'm also glad that she is seeking help, because I always say to people that when you watch your child or your partner or your family member who's no longer the same, it can take a toll on you. Right? Because you are watching them literally fade away sometimes. So it is important for the people around to also do check-ins for themselves so that they can cope. And also to just raise the point, the sad reality that, our health system as a whole fails when it comes to mental health support, because as she mentioned, medical aid runs out. There is still so much to be done. Even in the public sector, it is not in the state where it is, because if you cannot afford private health care, you almost are at the mercy of the few institutions that are there available, which is quite a sad reality in South Africa. So in that regard, I think you did talk about doctors who, where there's a crisis there, but there's also just a crisis when it comes to mental health hospitals that can accommodate people who need mental health intervention, both in the private and the public sector.
It's now 12 minutes to 12 o'clock. Selma is calling us from Roodepoort. Selma, hi.
Hello, Tabu.
Hi,
Thanks
morning.
for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
I would just like to add to that, 21 years ago, my, which is now late husband, was diagnosed with terminal grade 4 glioblastoma multiforme brain cancer.
I'm sorry about that.
As soon as that, and they said that, look, there's nothing much one can do for him. But anyway, afterwards we tried everything. But from the moment that I heard of this diagnosis, I started getting panic attacks. As soon as somebody just mentioned that, I suppose he hasn't got much time left, then I just feel like just flaking out, literally. My blood pressure just dropped. So I went to my doctor and I said to him, look, my husband can't drive after the brain operation, to remove the tumor, but the tumor obviously then just spreads. He got radiation, he got chemo, everything. Anyway, long story short, doctor said to me, oh, but what do you need? Can't you sleep? I said, oh no, at the end of the day, I'm so tired because I've now got to do all the driving, take the kid into the school, fetch him, whereas my husband used to take him in the morning. Anyway, so that, then he said, well, what do you actually want? Do you want the tranquilizer? I said, no, I have to be twice as alert and awake. But what do you want? I said, I want to cope with what's been thrown my way, this curveball. And he said, well, I'll give you SSRIs. They're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's a type of antidepressant.
Yes.
They're not addictive. And try them, but they take 21 days before there's enough buildup of it in your system. I promise you, that helped me to cope. It really helped me to cope. It didn't make me not grieve or make me feel very happy. It just helped me to cope.
Yeah.
And apparently, according to my husband's brain surgeon, this stuff actually helps to heal the synapses in the brain that was damaged by trauma.
Yeah.
You know that trauma can damage your brain?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Well, this apparently, these type of things like citalopram and escitalopram, that's the type of things, they actually help to heal your brain.
Wow.
So, what I found is that if one has a lack of vitamins, that can also make you even more depressed, especially in older people, they have found with research.
Sure.
So for anybody who's out there and is not on an antidepressant, you are doing yourself a great disservice.
Yeah. And
rather than think of suicide or anything like that, go to your doctor, get the damn stuff, go onto it, excuse my language, go onto it, and then it will really help you. Because I also went for to a psychologist because my boss said, no, you can go to a psychologist, should go to a psychologist anyway, and he recommended one to me that his family went after they were held up in the home.
We'll have to leave it at that, Selma, because I think you've given us some pearls of wisdom. I think also, Selma, we must also try to say, first consult a doctor, so that you know about the dosages and the kind of medication, because it may be a little bit too risky to diagnose people over the radio. But I'd say, together with that, go and consult a professional first before you take anything else. And that's just my 2 cents worth. 9 minutes to 12 o'clock. You are on 702, and my guest is Dr. Tumi Mashego. Doc, we're going to have a few minutes left. I don't know, before I go to the next call, if there's anything that you'd like to say, especially regarding what Selma had said.
I think just to re-emphasize what some of her points is that mental health disorders impact the brain chemistry. And that's why sometimes then someone with clinical depression will need to be referred to a psychiatrist who will then prescribe certain, antidepressants. That's what she was talking to. And when that happens, it's because there's something happening in the brain. And that's why I say to people all the time that you need to understand that I'm referring you there, not because, we're giving up. It's because the brain, the stress has led to, the dysfunction or the rewiring of your brain and problematic neurotransmitters. That's why you need this medication. And for some diagnoses, it's unfortunately for life. That's why acceptance is an ongoing thing for things like your schizophrenia, bipolar. But in situations like depression, it can be short-term depending on the context, but also that you can relapse. So meaning after you are finished with your treatment, just like cancer, you can go into remission, something can happen and you are stressed again, and you then relapse into the depression again. So I think, people need to understand that as well.
Great. Lehlonolo, you're calling us from Katlehong. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bongani and your listeners. I'm Lishano. I'm calling on the side of the people who are, who've experienced depression. I was diagnosed with ADHD and MDD, and I find that I don't blame people, but I find that it's hard for us to try say something to somebody, and all they can say is, let's go pray about it. And you go to the public sector and say, okay, you're seeking up help, and then you know the story. They just can't. They'll just maybe give you some pills. There's no track in your progress as a person. But the most difficult thing, I believe, is that some of us know that, okay, you have a problem and you are trying to articulate the problem. I don't believe that people should be making you a problem. You are trying to work with the problem, so that you can become a better person in society. And I think that's where, as the African society, we kind of lose it, because you don't really comprehend what is happening. You are suggesting from a point of not knowing what you think is happening. But if you actually understood the traumas that this person has gone through, or the failures that they've gone through, and the impact of that failure, you are able to make a better decision in how you can actually help that person. Some of us can't afford to pay, medical aids and stuff like that. But we still believe that there will be a day where you will be able to meet a person who understands you, so that you can do the reset button as you need to. We are willing. It's just we haven't figured out the how. So I was just speaking on the people saying that I know that people are saying that we try, look after our brothers and stuff like that. But even us, the ones that are experiencing this thing, it is very daunting. It is very frustrating, because I never saw myself like this. Yes. I never saw myself like a failure. I never saw my businesses failing. I didn't see any of this happening. So I'm trying to make means with what I have. Just understanding is also medicine for us.
Yeah, I think you've said it all. Really appreciate your viewpoint. Thank you so much for that. I just want to go through some voice messages, not voice, but text messages that came through, and try to cover as many as possible. Hi, Tabo and guest. My son and daughter-in-law are going through a very deep depression and isolate themselves. They also don't want any help from us. And it comes from Paul, and he says, we don't know what to do. And another one, when it comes to mental health, can it be a sort of class issue in the black community of South Africa, since there's been a considerable number of people in the community, such as middle class and rich class, that don't take mental health of the poor class as seriously as they should, and they, middle and rich class, only worried about themselves, such as workplaces. Hi, Tabo, is it possible that I can connect with health coach with her child? I also need support from her, please. And can you please tell us more about SADC, or how it's spelled? That's South African Depression and Anxiety Group. And their numbers, as far as I know, is 0800 567 567, 0800 567 567. But it's South African Depression and Anxiety Group. If you Google it, I'm sure you will get information. Few seconds left, Doc. How do people contact you? And your last word in just 10 seconds.
So the last word is just to say, when you get help for mental health intervention, it's about improving the quality of your life and managing the symptoms, and so that you can be a best version of yourself in spite of this. And it's ongoing acceptance that, I'm struggling with this. And as the previous caller indicated, it's not easy even for those diagnosed. It's an ongoing journey that one, falls upon, and it's quite hard, and it takes courage. And I wished him the best. And I truly hope he finds someone he can actually, build rapport with, because there is help out there. It's not always easy, but I really, truly hope that he can find someone who can help him. And also another point is, exercise is not replacement for therapy. Praying is not replacement for therapy. Yes, you can pray. Yes, you can exercise. It's good for you. It releases feel-good hormones, but it doesn't do what therapy does.
Certainly.
When you go for therapy, it's a different ball game altogether. They work hand in hand. Exercise is good. I recommend it, and praying.
We have to go, Doc. Your contact details. I'm flat out of time.
I'm at WhatsApp number 082 858 7033. On the socials at Dr. Tumi_DSM, and my website is rebaonewellness.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tumi Mashego, clinical and sports psychologist.
Unfold extraordinary with the brand new Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 5G 512 gig. Get it on a 6 gig Red Core plan from 1,749 per month over 36 months and double your storage with Vodacom, Mzansi's winning 5G network. Enhance your deal. Add 149 extra per month and get the Galaxy Watch 8 eSIM and Galaxy Buds 3. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
At the heart of global conversations shaping the future, Africa's voice matters more than ever. As Africa's largest bank by assets and lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, Standard Bank Group is proud to spotlight the continent's growth, partnerships, and potential on the world stage. Through informed dialogue and powerful partnerships, Standard Bank is driving sustainable growth where it matters most. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
Every wall tells a story. Now yours can be told with elegance, resilience, and colors designed to last. A creation rooted in heritage, perfected for today. The wait is over. The finest has arrived. Discover the finest, only at Chamberlain. Chamberlain, famous for hardware since 1903.
Coming up
On the Midday Report.
with Mandy Wiener.
She's sitting in front of me. What's coming up on the Midday Report, Mandy? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tabo. So coming up on the show today, police have shot and killed 2 suspects in KwaMashu in KZN. We'll speak to the Hawks. It's a Hawks incident. Pete Simao has been sentenced for rape, kidnapping and murder. That's a case of a 7-year-old girl in Soweto. Lilian Ngoyi Street is officially being reopened, the old Bree Street.
Yep.
The mayor's doing that performance today. And then today's the deadline for public comment on taxi routes in Cape Town being closed due to violence. We'll find out about that. And then lots to celebrate this weekend in terms of sport. The women's national rugby team was fabulous. So we'll talk about all of the sport this weekend.
Between 12 and 1, a show not to be missed, Midday Report with Mandy Wiener. It's 12 o'clock. We have to say goodbye. Thanks very much for everything. See you again tomorrow.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. We begin with news which contains some disturbing details of a crime against children. The man convicted of the rape and murder of 6-year-old Amantle Samane has been handed 2 life sentences. 25-year-old Pete Simiao pleaded guilty to violating the child in October last year in his shack in Orlando.